Would I be the asshole if I didn't give up my honeymoon villa to my grandparents? So my family is Asian, my husband's side is white. My husband and I got married and are treating his side of the family and my side to a 1-week, all-expense-paid vacation to Bora Bora as a pre-family honeymoon before going off on our real one. We were able to rent out half a side of the bungalows and only one villa was in that section. My husband and I took the villa. The bungalows are a 1,000 square feet, 1 bedroom, option of 1 king bed or 2 queens, 1 bathroom, and outdoor space type of deal. We made sure that everyone was accommodated for and everyone had a comfortable living situation. Our villa is a 4,000 square foot, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, including sauna, living room, a grand outdoor space with an outdoor bathtub, pool, and slide to get into the ocean. We have not even made it to whole 24 hours here yet, and a fight has already broken out. During dinner, my cousin mentioned wanting to come over and use our slide. My grandparents asked what we were talking about and asked to see a picture of our room. Well, they saw my villa and demanded that we trade rooms with them, as no elders should be made to slave and live as peasants while their grandchildren get a nicer room. This is Bora Bora we're talking about. No one is living as a peasant here. There was only one villa available in our section. Had I given it to my grandparents, I think it would have been offensive to my husband's grandparents. If there was 3, we would have given it to both grandparents and one for ourselves. But unfortunately, there wasn't. I mentioned this and they still demanded the villa. I obviously objected, and said I felt as though my husband and I should have that room, as this is a vacation with family to celebrate our marriage. Plus, we paid for this entire trip. Wouldn't one just sit back and be grateful they're on a free vacation instead of complaining? My grandparents freaked out, saying I'm holding money above their head and that I'm being disrespectful and not following their orders. They stormed off after threatening to take the first flight out tomorrow morning and leaving. I don't know what to do. My side of the family is telling me to just give them the room to be respectful and bring peace to the family, while my husband's side thinks that my grandparents are batshit crazy, and I agree. They are so ridiculous. All I wanted was both sides of the family to get together and get to know each other, and now it is falling apart. I don't think I'm the asshole at all. But I've been up all night thinking whether I should just squash it and invite my grandparents to stay in my villa in order for them not to leave. But another part of me just wants me to tell them to go F themselves for making my honeymoon about themselves, just like they do with everything else. So Reddit, what do I do? Would I be the asshole if I denied giving up my villa? I'm going to be going with a few wild assumptions on this one, but you did say that your family is Asian, and your husband's side of the family is white, and I imagine that there is a different level of respect that people usually show their elders in your side of the family than your husband's side. Judging by how they're reacting in this situation, to me, I think it's completely unreasonable and uncalled for what they're demanding of you, and I would tell them to piss off personally. Ultimately, you can only do so much in these situations. It just sounds like they want to bulldoze and walk all over you. I wouldn't allow them to do that. So not the asshole. Now in the comments, not the asshole. They're getting a free vacation, and a nice one at that. If they're going to throw a temper tantrum about not getting the nicest room, that's on them. Not the asshole. They are free to leave. Right? What kind of self-centered, ego-minded person would complain about their free vacation accommodations? When they called OP disrespectful, I about punched a hole in my monitor. The idea that someone would get a free vacation, the likes of which I'll probably never see, and still had the goal to insult your host? Ugh, well, I never. It's likely a cultural thing. Doesn't make them any less the asshole, but there are certain expectations that they seem to be leaning on to support this selfishness, and it seems possible that OP's family is going to support them based on that cultural interpretation, and that's going to be its own problem. Now and going forward. What a disaster. But I'd offer to buy them a flight home in lieu of the room that they don't want. As you point out, the choosing beggars are assholes, whether or not this is the way that they were raised. Culturally ingrained asshole behavior is still asshole behavior. Would the Emperor and Empress care to join us in the second millennium? Hun, as a fellow Asian, hold your ground. If you give in to this, you're opening yourself up to this nonsense from both of your grandparents and your parents for the rest of their lives. The next thing is going to be, why are you going on a vacation and not taking us along as your treat as well? Or, your house is nicer, so we're shifting her and living with you. For the sake of your insanity for the rest of your life, hold your ground. If they were going full traditional, wouldn't it be the husband's grandparents who got the single villa anyway? Yup, which is why it's basically just OP's grandparents throwing a massive tantrum. If OP wanted to go into maximum petty overdrive, she could agree with her grandparents, and then turn the room over to the husband's grandparents. Then the entire wedding party could live like Bora Bora slaves with no water slide, except for the old people who produced such a fine young man. Yeah, but they're not Asian, they don't count. This is exactly how her grandparents feel about it. Source, also Asian. Fellow Asian here, and I agree. I can totally see this sort of crap playing out with my own family as well, and if they want to fly out first thing tomorrow, they can pay for their own flights. I've been to Bora Bora before. The flights are at least 18 hours with 2 layovers and cost $1,200 plus one way. If they want to go through that, instead of enjoying a free vacation for a week, which probably cost OP at least $1,000 a night, then they can go F themselves. Not the asshole, don't let them manipulate you with their filial piety bullcrap. And now onto the update. Even though I really want to be petty and tell them to F off, I decided that it would be better to kill them with kindness, so they have little to work with if they decide to spin it around that I was disrespectful. During breakfast, my grandparents refused to show up if I was there. Everyone tried calling them. Nope, they were not coming because disrespectful granddaughter is there. After a lot of persuading, and even having to send our baby cousin to the room to soften them up, they finally decided to come. I made the first conversation by asking them if they looked at any flights to leave yet. They could forward the pay stub to my cell. They said that they had not looked yet, and that should be my job if I was kicking them out. I made sure they knew that I was not kicking them out, but understood if they wanted to leave, and offered to send some staff to their room to pack up their belongings so they could have a little more time to explore, or get their complimentary in-room massage that comes with all the bungalows. They kind of stopped eating and looked at each other in shock. Every time they threatened not to go anywhere, my family has always babied them and begged them not to leave, and offered money or extravagant gifts for them to stay. Well, I'm not doing that. I'll pay for their flight back home, but I have already done enough accommodating on my honeymoon vacation. So there you have it. My grandparents weren't even planning to go home, they tried scaring me into begging them to stay. I called their bluff. After breakfast, I found a flight leaving at around 5 PM to ask them to cancel reservations for that room for the rest of the trip and to send staff to help pack. They also didn't get their complimentary massage because the resort only offers that on a 4-night stay or longer. Staff came to help pack, and they left half an hour ago. I'm currently in my villa de-stressing before dinner, and some uncles came in, who were married into family, and confided in me that they were sick and tired of the entitlement that my grandparents have had since day one, and they were glad someone born into the family decided to speak up. My cousins came over and honestly couldn't care less that my grandparents are gone. In their words, they kill the vibe. So everyone is happy now and is using my slide before cleaning up for dinner. I'm happy that I was able to stand up to my grandparents without being blatantly disrespectful. I have an overflow of messages and comments that I can't get back to. However, the main question is what my profession is. I did not go the usual Asian route. I actually dropped out of my last year of college and started a fashion line that took a couple of years to take off, but surprisingly skyrocketed a few years ago. My dad is also an entrepreneur. I looked up to him and am so glad that I had him as an inspiration who paved the way. Don't give up on your dreams. And now in the comments, I'm Asian, but even this level of entitlement of elders is bewildering to me. I cannot imagine my grandparents, past or alive, ever being so selfish. My grandfather won't even allow us to give him more than $50 per person for his birthday or Chinese New Year. I love the malicious compliance on OP's part, as this was the best way to manage it, while keeping their sanity. I had an Asian teacher in junior high school who told us that her father came on her honeymoon and slept in the bridal suite. She and her husband slept in separate rooms, on a couch and cot, for the entire trip. No grandkids for that grandfather. You'd think that if he wanted them, he'd, let them have a chance to make babies. It's like parents who never let their children date, but then as soon as they're adults, constantly ask why they're not married with kids yet. My family has had similar struggles. My family is white, and my sister-in-law is Chinese. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law and niece live within a mile of her parents, and my parents live in Florida. My parents and them planned a Disney vacation for a 3-bedroom villa, and each paid 50-50. The week before the vacay, my brother told my parents his in-laws had decided to join them, and his wife and him would share a room with their daughter, so the in-laws would get a room. They see her every single day. My parents see her 3 times a year at most for a few days. Well, they came and complained the house was too small and didn't even contribute to the cost of the villa, and even told my parents that they thought it was disrespectful that my parents' room was bigger. Which I don't get. My parents are elders too, and they paid. Why would they give up the largest room? Regardless, my parents left early. When someone else is paying and hosting and you aren't, how the F do you even get to decide to invite yourself? I would have put my foot down very firmly. Am I the asshole for complimenting my boss's body? I, 24 male, work as a supervisor at a fast food joint. My former boss, 28 female, is extremely attractive. She left due to finding another job. When she first started, we got along fine, but she became quite distant and started acting standoffish towards me. About 2 weeks after she started acting weird around me, she asked the owner of the restaurant to get a new door for the back entrance, as she is quite small and struggled to close the door when she would lock up at night. The door was overlapping the hinges at the top. I was there when she asked, and I said, maybe it's a good exercise so that you could build up your arms a little to match your thick thighs. She gave me a weird look, and I said that it wasn't meant as an insult, that she's in great shape. She ignored me, and I saw her talking to my colleague, a female supervisor, and they have both been super weird with me since. I don't think I did anything wrong. Am I the ass? Edit on the getting fired comments. I think she did speak to the head office, but I get along great with the director in charge of our store. He hasn't said anything or been acting weird towards me at all, so I really don't think that I did anything wrong. Now in the comments, you're the asshole, and if you were my employee, you'd have been fired already for that comment. Totally inappropriate. And the update for this story is actually this response. A friend sent me this and told me to piggyback on the top comment, so here goes. I am the woman in this post. Do you see now, Andrew? 1. Yes, we did get along in the beginning. 2. I don't know what you mean by my potty mouth, as I had only F-bombed a few times, one of which you felt it appropriate to respond with, F-word? F-word. And then almost chanting to yourself, don't say anything, there's a lady. Don't say anything, there's a lady here. 3. I caught you staring at me multiple times, and I asked you to keep professional eye level. 4. Megan, the other supervisor, informed me that your ex made some claims about things you did to her. So, major creep vibes right there that already solidified your creep vibes. 5. You stink. How many times did I have to address these staff on personal hygiene? Even after a day off, your clothes stank of sweat. 6. I did approach head office, and you know what I was told? Oh, he's a good boy. Sam thinks he has great potential. 7. And yes, I left because of the toxic work environment where some middle-aged men in their big-ass BMWs thought that I was being dramatic. So F that restaurant chain. Oh, so he isn't just a pervy creep, he is an unwashed pervy creep. Fantastic, OP. Wash your balls. And your clothes. I had a male coworker, same age, who needed to be told by his mummy/manager that he needed to show up to work in clean clothes and wear deodorant. So, OP, if your mummy hasn't told you this yet, you need to wear clean clothes and deodorant to work. Preferably all the time, but trust me, your coworkers don't get paid enough to deal with your stench. Quote, to match your thick thighs? Seriously, dude? Seriously? I know, seriously. Way to let everybody know that you've been ogling your boss's body parts from the top to bottom since you have a comment for every one of them with gross description. How is that not wrong? He's oblivious to the fact that he smells and that he's a creep. I wonder what else he's oblivious to. I wonder if Andrew is the same one whose parents and then grandma stopped washing his once-a-month laundry because he was smelly. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for not stopping my mother-in-law from wearing white? I'm so confused. Please help. I'm getting married soon and we're having a traditional wedding. I'm Indian, my fiancé isn't, but he was fine with having an Indian wedding. My mother-in-law-to-be asked me if she could wear white to our wedding. I said sure, and now my fiancé is really mad at me. He says she's going to try to steal the spotlight, and she'll definitely show up wearing a long white dress, and it was very irresponsible of me to just agree like that. The thing is that 1, I'm not going to be wearing a white bridal dress, I'll be wearing a traditional red dress that, due to the design, type of silk, and embroidery, is very distinctive. So even if mother-in-law does wear a white wedding dress, it's not like it'll be the same. Also, this may be dumb, but I don't really get what the big deal is if my mother-in-law wears white, even if I was going to. As long as the groom doesn't get confused and marry the wrong person, how does it matter? Sorry if this is dumb, but my fiancé is really upset that I didn't stop my mother-in-law, and I just need some help understanding. I didn't mean to upset him. Edit, my fiancé knows what my wedding dress looks like. He has seen it. Edit 2, for those asking if mother-in-law knows how my wedding dress looks, I'm not sure. We have discussed what the wedding will be like. She hasn't been to an Indian wedding before, but I don't think we explicitly discussed what I will be wearing. I feel like she was confused when I said she is free to wear white, but that might be me projecting, because the whole conversation was a bit confusing for me. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I said my mother-in-law could wear white to our wedding without asking my fiancé. I can see where your fiancé is coming from with this issue, but it does seem like it's in a realm that's completely separated from weddings that these two are used to, and they don't realize that this will be a complete non-issue. If anything, she will just be embarrassing herself. I do think that that disruption, though, could be embarrassing, it could be cringe. Maybe he doesn't want his mum embarrassing him and having that reflect on him and reflect on you. Though in that case, that seems like it's an issue that he would need to sort out with his mum since he's more personal with her. Or at least you'd assume he is. Either way, I don't think you're the asshole for saying that she could wear white to the wedding. I do think you need to talk with him, though. Now in the comments, not the asshole, but please have a conversation with your partner. He knows his mum better than you do, and he may well be predicting some mother-in-law behavior that will cause issues. Based on OP's fiancé's reaction, I'm guessing mother-in-law has a history of inappropriate and/or attention-seeking behavior, and he is trying to break that cycle. OP should talk to her fiancé to get on the same page, and maybe going forward, tell mother-in-law that she has to run things by him. But see, I think her dealing and thinking she got one over just to discover the bride is in red would be glorious. Upstage the upstager. I think OP's fiancé should totally lean into that, pretend nothing is wrong, act unimpressed, etc. Yeah, I'm guessing from this post that mother-in-law has never been to an Indian wedding and has no idea what she is in for. You gotta wake up pretty early in the morning if you want to upstage an Indian wedding party. Not the asshole. It is pretty rude of her to ask to wear white. I know it doesn't matter to you since you're having an Indian wedding ceremony, but I think why your fiancé is mad is because I assume his family and other non-Indian people will be at the wedding, and it sounds like she wants to show off for them. It's his mom, so I would tell fiancé that if he is mad, then he needs to speak to his mother about it. Not the asshole. Your fiancé is probably upset because it's the ultimate in cliché monster-in-law moves. Unless she's just naive, mothers tend to do this because they want to be the center of attention. She may have something against you, or maybe she just can't handle not being the star of the show. There is also an ick factor because wearing white at a wedding kind of makes it look like she's trying to marry her own son. It sounds like your fiancé is trying to make sure you are the star of the wedding. He might also be expecting some more bad behavior on her part and thinks the dress is just the first step. Sit down with him and ask him to explain why he is specifically upset about this. Let him know that you aren't concerned since your lehenga is red, not white, so her attempt to steal attention is pretty weak. He might still be upset because of his mother's behavior. I'd suggest letting him address it with her. And OP replies, "Thank you. This helps me understand things so much better. It is pretty icky of a mother to be dressed like her son's wife. Now I'm starting to wonder if she knows that I'm not going to be wearing white." And now on to the update. So, as you all suggested, I talked to my fiancé about why he was concerned. He explained that his mother had previously joked that she would wear white, and he had told her point blank that she wasn't allowed to do this. He didn't tell me about this because he didn't want to stress me out. Apparently, she has a tendency to steal attention throughout his childhood, which left some trauma. So basically, when I told mother-in-law that she could wear white, he was very upset that I had given permission when he had categorically refused. But he admitted that it was wrong of him to get upset when he hadn't shared any of the background information with me. We agreed that going forward, we would be better about communicating and made up. But then he wanted me to call up mother-in-law and tell her that she couldn't wear white or else she was banned from the wedding. Which I didn't really want to do, because that sounded like a surefire recipe for open hostility. And like I said earlier, I don't actually have a problem with mother-in-law wearing white. I told him that he was welcome to tell her if he wanted, but he was insisting that I have to tell her because I was the one who gave permission. It was starting to turn into an argument, so I showed him the post and all of your great advice. This really helped. It helped him realize that even if mother-in-law wore white, it wouldn't really stand out, at least not in a positive way, and he loved your guys' idea of just not telling mother-in-law that I wasn't going to be wearing white. So we'll probably offer to buy her a sari, but if she insists on wearing a white dress, we just won't stop her. Thank you to everyone who gave advice. I'll try to update after the wedding. And now onto that update from OP's old fiancé. So, given the way that things turned out, it seemed fitting that I post this. I am the previous poster's then fiancé. After Pia, not her real name, posted, a lot of commenters said that I was wrong for not dealing with my mother myself, and I was especially wrong for getting mad at Pia without telling her anything. I didn't want to admit it, but the more comments I read, the harder it was to brush off. I don't have a good relationship with my mother. She was the type to demand gifts on my birthday because I wouldn't be here without her. For 18 years, I never got to open presents myself. Looking back, every event from my games to graduation was always about her. I always felt like my life and achievements were just an extension of her accomplishments. I think I suppressed my resentment because everyone around me always acted like this was normal. I didn't know how to cope with this, so I just tried to get as far away from her as possible. I applied to the furthest university I could realistically get into, and stayed far away because anytime I had to go back home, it was the same story. At university, I was lucky enough to meet Pia, and for the first time, I started to like who I was. I didn't feel like I had to hide or play down my accomplishments, or even my failures. And her family was so warm and welcoming. It felt like my childhood was just a nightmare of the past. I thought the best way to move past it was just to move ahead. I thought that I would be able to handle it now as an independent adult. After all, everyone says you're supposed to let sleeping dogs lie, and in my worst moments, I felt jealous of my wonderful fiancé for having such a welcoming and loving family, even though they were treating me like one of their own. I was ashamed of my mother's behavior and of the ugliness of my resentment, so I pretended that everything was fine and I invited my parents to my wedding. Until this post blew up, I don't think I really understood how important my wedding was to me. I mean, obviously, the whole getting married to the girl of my dreams is huge, but I mean the actual details of the whole ceremony. I actually had a really clear vision of what I wanted in the wedding, but a combination of my childhood trauma and the notion that the wedding is the bride's day and not something that men are supposed to care about made me unable to express it. I also didn't understand how badly I wanted an event that would be about me and not about my mother. This unholy cocktail of repressed and suppressed feelings led to me unfairly lashing out at Pia when my mother tried her old tricks. At that moment, I forgot that white wasn't the bridal color in Indian weddings. I just felt a cold sweat that another precious moment would be hijacked by my mother. I think Pia was shocked by my outburst because she had never seen me like this, and made that post just to get some perspective. Neither of us imagined the ramifications that it would have. I read every comment at least 10 times. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Unwanted memories kept invading my head. No matter how much I tried to bury my head in work or exhaust myself by exercising, I ended up having an actual meltdown that night. I was sobbing and crying. It was probably my ugliest moment. The next morning, I half expected to wake up alone and get a text that the wedding was off. Instead, incredibly, Pia stayed with me. She convinced me to go to therapy. She encouraged me through those first few hellish sessions and gave me space when I needed it. Therapy really helped. I was able to understand why I was feeling angry and upset and how to deal with it beyond just trying to ignore it. I apologized to Pia earlier, but it let me actually be honest with her about my family. It really transformed our relationship. I took over the wedding preparation with the help of my in-laws, and this turned out to be great for all of us. I got to actually design my dream wedding. My mother-in-law later told me that she was really relieved that we switched because my lovely Pia didn't really care any which way about the colors or flowers, and had virtually no input on any of it as long as we were getting married. You might have realized from her post that she's a pretty nonchalant and easygoing person. She used to joke that she was fine with just exchanging garlands and calling it a day. My mother-in-law was also very encouraging and patient in letting me voice my input, and even found things that I didn't really know of, but loved, like riding a horse to the ceremony. We have a running joke that I seem more like her son than Pia because our taste is so similar. And the actual wedding went really, really beautifully. Pia was ready to rescind my parents' invitations completely after everything, but her terrifying little sister suggested we invite anyway as a final sort of FU, to show them that I wasn't alone anymore, and no matter what they tried, this time, things would go my way. I have to admit that did appeal to me, so we decided to invite them for the third day of the ceremony, and it worked even better than I imagined. First, it helped that my mother had no real idea what an Indian wedding is like, so when she showed up in a long white tulle ball gown, security actually thought that she had the wrong address and didn't let her in. This was actually something I didn't plan, but the schadenfreude of seeing my mother fuming by the gate while other guests were let in was delicious. Secondly, compared to the embroidered silks and sleek satins of Indian clothes, my mother's ball gown honestly looked frumpy. Instead of stealing the show, she just looked like she didn't belong. This was accented by the jewelry, the Manchuri and Kungan, and earrings and bindis worn, compared to her much more sparse look. Pia looked especially beautiful in her red lehenga choli, with intricate henna covering her hands and feet. I'm probably biased since she's my wife, but she has the most beautiful inky hair, and it looked stunning adorned with gajra and gold bilai on her braid. Indian brides also wear something called matapati, which looked like a crown. It definitely made her look like a princess. I actually forgot about my parents and my insecurity, and pretty much the rest of the universe because I couldn't stop staring at her. Then my mother tried really hard to interrupt the ceremony. First, she tried coughing, but luckily Pia's aunt sitting right next to her gave her a cough drop. Then she tried to initiate a conversation, but Pia's niece loudly said in that high-pitched voice of children that really projects, "Don't you think it's rude to talk during weddings? I'm 5 and I know that." I later learned that she had been coached to respond this way by my wonderful, terrifying sister-in-law. The third time she tried to interrupt, Pia's cousin, who had also been coached by sister-in-law, jumped and loudly whispered that the food didn't seem to agree with my mother and needed to go to the bathroom immediately. I'm sure you can guess the implication, and basically pushed her away. After that, she stayed embarrassedly quiet for the rest of the ceremony. Throughout all this, the Panditji never missed a beat, and everyone else acted like she wasn't there. In the after-party, the difference between my mother and everyone else was unpleasantly accented by her ignorance of Bollywood and Tollywood dance skills, so she tried to refocus attention through conversation. She turned to my mother-in-law and started to complain about how hard it was to raise me. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, said, however difficult children are, they bring 10 times as much happiness just by growing. Your son is such a wonderful young man. You must be so proud of him. My mother didn't like the direction of the conversation, so she turned to Pia and asked her if she was sure that she wanted to be with me. This was after we had gotten married. Pia looked at her like she was a bit slow and said, "Why would I be marrying him if I wasn't sure?" My mother loudly asked her again if she was really sure, because I used to wet the bed. I haven't done that since I was 8, but there she was, loudly announcing it for all and sundry. At that moment, I really, really hated her. It felt like there was something stuck in my throat, but no words came out. But Pia didn't have that problem. "You must be confused," she said. And it was so confident with a touch of concern that my mother looked like she was actually confused. Then she raised her voice so it could be heard over the music. "Dear my mother, I know we are family now, but it's much too soon right now, or ever, for me to hear about your bedroom activities." And then she dragged me away to the dance floor while people started to stare at my mother. Stupidly, the first thing I said in our first dance as a married couple was that my mother was right. But because I am the luckiest man alive, Pia just squeezed my hand and told me it happens when children are put under stress and that it wasn't my fault. That was pretty much the end of the problem, and I enjoyed the rest of my wedding, dancing, eating food, and talking with Pia, and now my wonderful family. I did see Pia and my sister-in-law having another talk with my mother later, but I was too far away to hear anything. It couldn't have been too bad because my sister-in-law smiled a lot, and my mother didn't try anything new for the rest of the party. By the end of the day, my mother looked incredibly constipated, but she hadn't managed to ruin anything. I felt so relieved when I said goodbye, like a weight had just slipped off my feet and my knees felt weak. It was the first time in my life that she hadn't taken over something that was supposed to be about me. After that day, I haven't had any more sudden, invasive memories of the past. I feel so incredibly lucky to have married this girl, and I feel like I might have done something really stupid after that fight if I hadn't seen so many strangers telling me the same thing until I couldn't ignore it. So in case anyone was still following this, I wanted to post a thank you. And now in the comments, the moment I saw the wedding was Indian Hindu, I bust a gut. I could see every single humiliation coming. I feel like I know OP's family because they're exactly like mine. Drama is something that we know how to handle. Painful relatives are an everyday walk in the park. The terrifying sister-in-law and the trained niece are exactly how my fam would have done it. Fiancé's mum was just outmatched. Hindu weddings are a riot of noise and color, except for the really long ceremonies. And because they are so long, everyone has strategies to deal with the painful guests who like to whine. Usually, those strategies are aimed at idiot teenagers, but I guess they work well for idiot old folk too. And I know they work because I used to be an impatient, whiny teenager who has been at the receiving end of this. If she wanted to make a scene, she needed to step up her game big time. This was the big leagues, and she was playing Little League. Also, I wouldn't assume that her look of constipation wasn't serious. If the food was catered, there is a good chance that she was genuinely stuck with an upset stomach. If you aren't used to Indian food, especially wedding food, it'll knock your bowels for a 6. Every large party needs to have a few designated wranglers for the hosts. One day that niece will be training her child or nibbling in the art of difficult guest management. Also, I wouldn't assume the sister-in-law wasn't being evil near the end of the night, smiling at the mother. You can deliver a lot of mean comments while smiling if you're practiced. This is the first time I've appreciated the overbearing Indian family. I'm Indian. It's a lot. Here they are all banded together and planned and just buried the narcissistic mom. I think I'm feeling patriotism. First time ever. The mother-in-law thought that she would get one over on a people who have a genre of soaps specifically for nightmare mother-in-laws. Scream. I was thinking of serials too. Just imagining the slow motion pan over to an angry woman in an ugly dress at a wedding. Magic. Sister-in-law should be a director. I was so scared when he said then fiancé. Not gonna lie, that got me too. My wife hates it when I introduce her as my ex-girlfriend. Quote, I have to admit that did appeal to me, so we decided to invite them for the third day of the ceremony. I'm dying, she only got invited to the third day. I know it would have been impossible to wrangle her for all of the ceremony, but that on top of everything else is sending me. She probably didn't even know that Indian weddings are longer than a day. Oh yeah, I have no doubt she has no idea that she had already missed 2 days of the wedding. Ignorance helped this couple big time. I lost a bunch of weight and gained a lot of muscle, and my girlfriend no longer finds me attractive. So for context, me and my girlfriend have been going out for 3 years, 4 in November. At the time we met, we were both kinda pudgy. Not overweight, just kinda plumpish, I guess. And we stayed that weight until last year, where due to a health scare, which was a false alarm, and convincing from my mum, I decided to lose some weight. I started eating healthier, went on keto, and still am. Worked out, went to the gym, and as of about 1 month ago, I lost 50 pounds and gained a ton of muscle. Exercising is now my stress relief. Went from pudgy to toned and muscle, and I love the way I feel. I feel so much better and happier. Now, my girlfriend is still the same weight, but that doesn't matter to me. I still love her. That being said, over the past 2 to 3 months, she's been kind of distant. She doesn't like cuddling anymore. She was always a big cuddler, or she doesn't touch or feel up my chest and stomach randomly. Little things like that have disappeared. I kinda thought maybe this is the natural progression of a long-term relationship until I confronted her about it, and she said that ever since I lost weight and gained muscle, she finds me less attractive. This was a shock to me. I didn't expect my weight loss to make me less attractive to her, though I do feel more confident. I've heard of relationships changing because one partner gained a lot of weight, but for it to happen because I lost a lot of weight really gave me a curveball. Our relationship is still strong, at least that's what I want to believe, but I can feel the seeds of something growing and not in a good way. I don't want to go back to how I was. I feel great and happier, and in no way am pushing her to lose weight, nor do I push my diet on her. Since I do the cooking, I cook my food that I like, and can eat and cook her food that she likes. And now in the comments, she chose you the way that you were back then. It's possible that she is still adjusting to the new you. Maybe she's insecure about herself, maybe she honestly preferred the old you, perhaps she misses sharing nice food and activities that you did pre-keto and exercise. It's time to sit down and have an open discussion. Definitely don't change yourself for her. You feel good, and that is the most important part. But try to find out where this sudden change in attraction is coming from, and decide from there if this relationship has a future. And OP replies, I've been trying to talk to her about it, but she either brushes me off, or says, it's fine if this is the new you, and I have to get used to it. Or just walks away. I'm about ready to handcuff her to get a serious talk out of her. Serious conversations like this can be really intimidating. One great tactic to make it easier is to do it while walking. No awkward eye contact, you feel less vulnerable. Honestly, it's a winner. Tactics aside, I'd lead with wanting to find common ground. You've made some big changes, so ask her openly what she misses. Perhaps there is something you can do together that feels like old times, without you compromising your new healthy routine. I agree with everyone here saying to have an honest conversation with her, and that she's likely adjusting to a new you and lifestyle. Definitely don't change your habits that make you happy, but I can imagine maybe she misses meals with you before that weren't keto, or doing things that you'd normally do with her before you went to the gym. Ask her if there are ways for you to spend more quality time with her. It may not be rational, but she might be feeling like you spend more time working on yourself than with her. Emphasis on not changing your habits though, and how some of these possible feelings aren't 100% rational. Just open the conversation up to why she finds you less attractive. In my experience, any weight changes in a relationship can be hard. I went through eating disorder recovery about halfway through my relationship, and it took a lot of reassurance and work on myself to get over the fear that my boyfriend finds me less attractive now. It was honestly hard feeling like my boyfriend was fitter than me, and the weight gain made me feel like I was going to lose him or that he was embarrassed of me. You suddenly getting into shape probably caused some similar feelings. I'm sure she's still proud of the work that you put in, but it's easy to feel like you don't fit into your partner's life anymore when there is weight fluctuations. And now on to the update. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for your support, advice, and personal anecdotes. It really put things into perspective. Secondly, most of the advice came down to talking to her, and I knew that I needed to do that, but I wasn't sure how to approach it, what to say, or how to say it. So I planned out what I wanted to say using people's various comments, rehearsed it, and planned out different outcomes that could occur. I'm a planner to the nth degree. I confronted her and kept pushing until she gave a definitive answer, and it turns out that most of you were right. Basically, she felt that she had become second in my life, and my lifestyle, diet, and exercising came first. For example, after work, she would usually play some video games and we would either play together or I'd watch some YouTube or anime while she played. But over the past year now, I go to work out immediately after work, and she misses that time together. Even if we were doing our separate things, being in the same room together, hanging out, was just a lot of fun together. Or when we watch movies together, theater, or at home, she would have some snacks while I didn't eat anything, and she misses sharing that experience with me. She must have listed like half a dozen other things, and in the end, it made her feel like I was no longer interested in her. Honestly, I felt like such an idiot for not seeing it. I was being selfish, and I was pissed at myself for not seeing it. I've always been kinda dense, but this takes the cake. I told her that I'll never make her feel that way again. I'll never make her feel like she is second. I am not going to go back to my previous weight, and she is okay with that. But I'm willing to work with her on this, and if that means putting on 5 to 10 pounds or so for some lifestyle changes in her favor, then I think I'm okay with that. This past week, it's felt like a new spark has been lit in our relationship. It feels like when we first got together and in the honeymoon phase. I've changed my diet so it's not so strict, cut down on exercise sessions, and spending time with her after work instead of going straight to working out. You guys have collectively saved my relationship. I cannot express the gratitude that I feel. So once again, thank you so much. And now in the comments, you can buy that Ring Fit adventure video game for Switch. It's like an exercise game and you can play together, or you can play alone while she's doing something else around you. But it also helps you to add exercise routines. If she wants to share snacks, popcorn is very low calorie if you make it yourself, not the microwave one. You can each have your own bowl and she can add things to it. I don't think you need to go get the old junk snacks or food that you got before. There are tons of delicious things that are healthy, and having tons of salt and sugar is not good. I also don't think it tastes good, to be honest. You're getting manipulated to adhere to her standards. You love her the same, but she is in her feelings about you getting in shape and bettering yourself. So now you're ready to give up stuff that makes you feel confident while she doesn't compromise a thing. You're playing with real fire, and you're likely to get burned. She's not a supportive partner at all. So, initially, she lied to you by saying she found you less attractive. Now, after communicating, she's told you the loss of quality time is the issue. If you found a healthy way to cope with stress, she should be happy for you and wants you to continue, not to revert to your old ways. Is she asking for compromise, or is she asking you to go back to the way that things were? I feel like you may not be getting the whole story. Her initial lie, saying that it was an issue of physical attraction, makes me think there may be deeper insecurities at play. I think you two aren't done communicating. I was thinking the same thing. This just highlights that they may need to work on, or at least be aware of possible communication issues in the future. She sounds like she's not comfortable expressing her feelings if she fears that it might hurt him or rock the boat. What I want to know is how some of you guys are able to work out with other people. I see many saying she should work out with him. I hate when other people come with me to the gym or to go jogging. How do you guys handle it? It's a freaking distraction, and I can never fully focus on my workout or listen to music because I feel like I have to pay attention to the other person that I brought. That's why I don't bring anyone with me anymore. I leave not only feeling like I did nothing, but also annoyed at the other person. How does everyone here saying that they should work out together handle working out with other people? Go to the gym together, but work out on your own. I hate working out with people, but having someone to go to the gym with, then split off, is nice. I know a lot of couples like this who have varying levels of interests in the gym, and I've never seen it get this dysfunctional. There is so much you can do to have your lifestyle line up. 1. Go to the gym in the morning. Suddenly, your evenings are free. 2. Lifting 6 times a week is fine if you're trying to keep gaining muscle, but people that want to just keep what they have get by fine doing that 1 to 2 times a week. 3. You can branch out into other stuff that's more interesting, like group classes or hiking the significant other could come to, or more efficient like high-intensity interval training for other non-lifting stuff. And 4, having some equipment at home or finding a gym that's on the way to or from work so it cuts down on travel time. The underlying problem is just communication here, and they are not going to see it. Our next post is titled, "Someone in my, male 24's, friend group made fun of someone's autistic sister. We came down hard on him, and my fiancé, female 23, is upset at me." I want to keep this straight and quick and to the point. I met my girl in college and introduced her to my friend group a few years back. She didn't have many friends until I introduced her, but everyone loved her for the past few years, and some of our friends are even in our wedding party. But a recent situation now has her upset at me, and this is the first potential flag that I've seen. We were all hanging out at someone's home on Saturday night when Jake, fake name, was telling us about a customer who had an autistic son who was messing up his closing zone, pushing everything forward on shelves before close. He works in retail at Target. By touching everything, and how the mum refused to make him even stop after he came over and asked her numerous times, and this is where the trouble began. Nick began imitating how he guessed the kid was acting by pretending to act like him and do things with his face that Steph didn't find funny. And Steph has an autistic sister who we all know and have met a few times at certain gatherings. But when she asked him to stop, as he continued imitating for a little bit, Nick refused to stop and told her to lighten up and found it funny. But when she started to look hurt and really bothered, he didn't care until Steph walked away, and he didn't apologize either, although he was a little buzzed. Steph was really bothered about it for the rest of the night, and a lot of us were surprised with how out of character it was for Nick, despite being one of the louder ones in the group. However, when some of us talked to him about it the day after, we told him that Steph was hurt and that he should apologize. But he became defensive that we were all telling him this despite how Steph was crying, and he refused to apologize and said that we are all overreacting, to which me and a few of the other guys told him that it doesn't matter when someone is hurt, or in her case crying, since he wasn't the one hurt by it, but he just got mad and pointed out how he was drunk and that she should have taken that into consideration. But Steph wasn't drunk. And a few of us didn't have drinks either, but when he began cursing and calling her a B, we decided to let him be. Following that conversation, we decided not to interact with Nick until at least he apologized to Steph and us too for the cursing. So we hung out without him and texted him that we wouldn't include him until he apologized. But he got upset and began talking crap about Steph for being soft, among other words in the group chat. And after we eventually blocked him from there too, he began posting stuff about us on social media that wasn't true at all, and we decided to cut him off from our friend group entirely. However, my fiancé thinks that this is a big overreaction to someone getting drunk and how we handled it afterwards, saying that Steph needs to learn that her problems aren't anyone else's and that she also called everyone toxic in our group chat. The same chat with the friends who were supposed to be in our wedding, the same friends who she now doesn't want to be in the wedding, and is telling me that if I don't dump them, the wedding will be off. And when I asked her why she was getting so upset over it, she said that we basically cancelled Nick. And that is not how she wants me to treat our children. And I've never seen her get so worked up about something like this, and she didn't even know anyone in my group before I introduced her. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of, "How did you just recognize this?" But I don't know what made her snap unless she had feelings for Nick or something. But I've never seen her like this before, and it's not like Nick attacked her or anything either. Nick hurt Steph's feelings, and we told him to apologize. And that is the same thing that I would tell my kids to do if they ever hurt someone's feelings and learned from the person about it. But I'm stunned by my girlfriend saying that she doesn't want me to treat our children like that, and my friend group is trying to comfort me the best they can. But they are also stunned with how she's acting. And when I tried to explain myself to her and ask her to talk, she said she isn't talking until she gets an apology. But I don't think that I have anything to apologize for. Nick hurt Steph's feelings. Steph asked him to stop. Nick refused to stop. We told Nick to apologize. Nick refused and called her names and began bashing her in the group chat and on social media. And that's all there is to it. You think you know some people, but sometimes they show you another side of themselves over truly random things. And I stand by my actions. But given how she's been refusing to answer my texts or calls since Saturday, how should I go about things now? Since I'm not going to apologize to her, and a few of my friends have said that this is a red flag that I should consider, and honestly, I really am right now. But there is just so much emotion, which is why I wanted another opinion who isn't emotionally fogged like me right now. Although I'm leaning towards taking this red flag too, and not wanting to deal with someone like that in the long term. And now in the comments, you need to ask her what she wants an apology for, why she thinks it's okay for Nick to behave the way he did, what she thinks you all should have done, if she's planning to allow your children to mock others with impunity, why she's willing to call off the wedding. This may be a stress reaction to pre-wedding jitters, but you need to have some long conversations to see what is up with her. And OP replies, I'm hoping it's jitters, since she wasn't even involved in the situation, but yet she is giving me an ultimatum upon when she'll respond to text upon my apology for how we handled Nick. We gave him a ton of chances, including a second one to apologize after he became sober after that night. But calling Steph derogatory names in the group chat and on social media after blocking him makes her think that we are cancelling him unfairly, to use her words. And it just really seems arrogant to me. I've tried to text and phone call, asking to talk to her too about it, but she isn't responding until I apologize. Are you guys long distance? If she needs an apology before she'll even respond to you, you can say you are sorry that you upset her. But this kind of petulant, juvenile, emotional blackmail is bullcrap that you do not deserve. Remember that you don't have to marry her either. And OP replies to that, we were actually planning to move together back before COVID started, but her parents figured that it'd be best for her to stay with them when it first began. So we were planning to move in together sometime this year, but this throws everything off, to me, with her new lack of communication. I asked about long distance because I'm wondering why you don't talk in person. But yeah, I would slow way down. I was thinking the wedding was weeks away, hence the jitters idea. If you're looking at a wedding in the distant future, this isn't jitters. This is just weird. And OP replies, she didn't say anything in person when it happened on Saturday, or the night when we had our follow-up when Nick was sober. She only said something after we came to the conclusion that we wouldn't include him anymore after he cursed us out the second time and called Steph derogatory names in the group chat. It was after the group chat thing when we decided to cut him off that she finally said something, but not in person. She texted me at home about why she was upset, and we texted a few times back and forth. The inserts I included from our conversation that ended with her giving an ultimatum, but she never wanted me to talk about it in person. This is your future, OP, being unable to have serious conversations in person. Insist on it for when you ask what you were supposed to apologize to her about. That's the most concerning part. Why does she need it all in writing? See her in person and find out what the F is going through her head, because it sounds like she wants an excuse to call off the wedding. And OP replies, "That's what I'm thinking too. It makes no sense other than basically asking to call it off." That is an odd overreaction on her part. Drunk or sober, when your teasing starts hurting people, an apology is warranted. I don't see that as cancelling, I see that as trying to maintain civility. Oh, and as an aside, Nick is an asshole. And now, onto the update. I didn't appreciate her ignoring me, and I also considered her 180 a red flag. Like I said, I never saw her act like this before, and she didn't have many friends at all until I introduced her to my group of friends a couple of years back, and she had a few close ones, including Nick. A few of our friends saw her 182 and said that it was strange following her Facebook rant, and the ghosting was the last straw for me. I called her a few times, not because I was desperate, although it did hurt, but because I was not going to tolerate it, and gave her a deadline of a few days to respond because I wasn't playing that game. I've been ghosted before by someone else, so it wasn't my first time. I refused to change my stance on apologizing to Nick, and my friends said that I was right to do so, including the ones who were close to her. One, a girl, even said that my fiancé went along with asking Nick to apologize because she probably thought that he would, and that everyone would be fine. But when it wasn't, she showed her true colors. She said that my fiancé wanted friends more than anything, even if they showed ugly sides of themselves too. She didn't respond to the deadline that I gave her. So with the help of my parents, we proceeded to cancel the wedding after calls to her parents went unreturned too. However, the past year has been really difficult because of what she's done in the aftermath of canceling the wedding. One of the first things she did was make an Instagram post about how she was now single because I made homophobic comments that made her reconsider. Along with unfollowing a lot of us too, she also called my job and told them that I had tried to prevent her from leaving by becoming physical, which I never did, along with my homophobic comments too. Something I learned from a manager who pulled me aside to talk about it in the office. I ended up leaving that job because that manager told others what I thought was confidential in our conversation, and long story short, there were those who took my side, more than not, at my job, but also those who didn't and had different versions, and it made it tough to be there after some began treating me very different. I tried changing departments without a promotion, but was told that I needed a reason, and when I was honest about why, it wasn't approved. HR said that they would talk to said people who were spreading things and promised to follow up, but they never did, and some people began making comments about how I was trying to get them in trouble too, and that's just a little part of it. Some days were quite rough, and here's where I'm at now. Dad has suggested trying to sue my fiancé for defamation, but my therapist said that I shouldn't and should just move on because suing would show my fiancé that she still has power over me, along with the stress of the whole process and having to be involved with her too. Dad disagrees with my therapist and suggested finding a new one. I'm also not sure if I can sue because I left the company on my own volition, but Dad said that I can because her rumor started everything, although we have no proof of the call made to the office unless a lawyer is able to attain that. I'm not sure if that is possible though. That's where I'm at right now and what I want to ask. It's been a hard year and I want to move on. I thought about suing, but I don't even know if I have enough to if I wanted to, and I'm torn on my therapist's advice. I am open to any and all suggestions. And now in the comments, as for the legal stuff, talk to a lawyer. Anything else will just be guessing. Once you're informed, you can make whatever decision you want. A cease and desist, a threat of suing if she doesn't publish a new pre-approved version of what actually happened, who knows what he might suggest. As others have mentioned, make a big post telling what happened between you and your former fiancé, and have your lawyer check it beforehand to make sure that you are not legally exposing yourself. I'm a lawyer myself, not in the US however, and I know that going to court can oftentimes drag an issue for years on end, so your therapist may not be that off. However, from what I gather, a therapist should help you to make your own decisions, not tell you what to do. You could consider getting a new therapist. In the end, it may have been a rough year, but you'll come out on top. It may not look like it right now, but you lost a fiancé who wasn't a good person, you lost a job in a place where they obviously didn't know or care about you, and kept only the right people by your side. Just keep moving forward. If you're going through hell, that's a bad moment to stop. And OP replies, I will consider a new therapist and a lawyer for sure. I was just torn on questioning my therapist originally, which is why I wanted advice the most. It's been a tough year, and I've been wanting to pursue it, but my therapist kept talking it down. It's pretty ironic that the fiancé complained about cancelling Nick, and then proceeds to slander OP to get him cancelled. Because of the mirroring of, I want to talk to you until you apologize to the other person, she seems to me one of those give you a taste of your own medicine type of people. The problem with people like that is, they don't see nuances. The whole, I'm worried that you'll treat our kids this way bit was hilarious too, since that's just putting them in timeout until they apologize. I'm worried that you'll treat our kids this way. Unless her kid turned out to be autistic, of course, then she would have been all about backing up Steph. I think the fiancé was keeping the crazy locked down, and when she saw his friend group cancel someone who was not able to keep their crazy locked, she thought that would be her sooner or later. Yeah. My first thought upon finishing the first half was, I think you just found out why she didn't have a friend group before she met you. That is because the other friend group spotted something was off with her, although come to think of it, perhaps she got cancelled for this crap once before. Certainly some people just struggle with making friends and that's all, but when you look at those two things in context here, ding ding ding, we have a winner. Although I don't like the term cancelling when applied to a person, I agree with your take on the situation. The Nick incident clearly showed her that, while loyal, the friend group and her partner would not silently sit by and watch nor accept crap behavior from anyone. It was a clear sign that anything she did, both in the friend group and marriage, would rightly be called out, and there would be very real consequences for her behavior. I'm sad for OP though. He did the right thing, and it resulted in having his career messed with, received death threats, and serious impact on his mental health. That is so unfair, it's heartbreaking. I hope he continues to be who he is, and doesn't let this experience break him. My boyfriend has fallen for my best friend. A little backstory. This year will be mine and my boyfriend's 8-year anniversary. We live together, and we planned on getting engaged soon. Before we were dating, we were, and still are, in the same friend group, and so is my best friend. They've been friends for ages as well. They hang out sometimes as well, going to the cinema to watch specific movies that I'm not interested in, or just watching football together. But most of the time we'll hang out with our entire friend group at one of our homes, eating dinner together, or just having drinks. For a few months now, my boyfriend has been acting kind of strange, and after multiple times of me asking him if everything's alright, he finally sat me down to talk. He told me he had fallen for my best friend, and that he doesn't know what to do. He says he is still very much in love with me, and he's sure that it's just a crush that'll pass. He even considered not telling me and just waiting it out, but he says that it's been 4 months now and it's not over. When he told me this, it felt like my heart stopped and the ground got knocked down under my feet. I'm sure my best friend has no idea that this is going on, and he's assured me nothing has happened between them. I believe him, as she's engaged to her boyfriend of 4 years and seems perfectly happy, and I trust her with my life. I honestly don't know what to do, and neither does he. I don't know if I want to continue this relationship when he's got a crush on another girl, and not just any girl. The worst part is, I can see why it happened. They've got similar interests, specifically interests that I don't share. They both have a parent that passed away due to disease, and they both have really good talks about their situations. And generally, she's just a really nice and beautiful person. I don't blame her, but since he's told me, I can't help but feel jealous and bitter. He doesn't want to tell her about this, as to not mess up the friendship and the dynamic in the group. But my boyfriend and her fiancé are really good friends as well. But I feel like I would need to tell her, especially if we end up breaking up over this. I just don't know what to do. Any advice is welcome. Should we continue this relationship? Do you think it's worth it to try to get over this? And should we tell her about his feelings? Please help. I think what I would do in this situation is talk with him more about it, try and dig up as many details as possible, and go from there. But my gut feeling on this situation is that he has hidden this from you for quite a long time. It doesn't really feel like it's something that you can get over, and it feels like no matter how you slice it, unless you're willing to completely cover this up and move on, it is just going to keep rearing its ugly head every now and again. To me, that's just the unfortunate reality of situations like this, and the only good way to deal with it is to break it off. And now in the comments, falling for someone and having a small crush are completely different. This situation is also different because he knows her very well. She's not some random pretty coworker that he knows nothing of past the surface. If my boyfriend told me that he had fallen for my best friend, we would have a problem. He's been feeling like this for 4 months and didn't take the initiative to distance himself those months ago? Makes me wonder if they've spent time together alone within the past 4 months. Well, OP says that they have, and I don't fully believe that he hasn't tested the waters at least once. Did he minimize his time alone with her over the last month or so? If not, then he really did not try to wait it out. Sorry he dumped this on you. Yes, it'll happen again. You may even end up with a crush on a coworker in the future. That's why a relationship is a commitment. I mean, I've been in a similar situation, except I was the best friend crushing on the girl. I acted the same since I didn't want to lose the friendship, and while it was hard, I pulled it off after around 6-ish months. I thought the best case would be to limit contact to speed it up. I can see this working out only if he is fully willing to decrease his visits and talks with her by a large margin, cutting contact completely almost even. Intent is everything. If he still loves you and wants to work things out with you, he'd be willing to set a boundary and not involve himself with her alone until some time in the future. I don't know. Me personally, I don't think I'd be able to trust him not developing feelings for anyone else, considering he was able to with this friend. But if he's willing, it may be worth the chance, so long as he sets that boundary firmly. Honestly, if it was me, as soon as the words left his mouth, it would be the end of the relationship. He could have taken the initiative by himself. He's either stupid or a major D-bag. I completely agree. If it were me, that would be the start to the end of my feelings for him, and realistically, the relationship wouldn't be able to mend itself at that point because my trust would be lost. And now, onto the update. Not surprisingly, we broke up. I decided that I couldn't handle the fact that he had developed such deep feelings for another woman, deep enough to tell me about them. He accepted my choice, but has decided to distance himself from the group and my best friend. He found a job on the other side of the country and moved away. Obviously, our breakup came as quite the shock to our friend group, but the only one who I've told the actual reason to is my best friend. She was super shocked and told me she never noticed anything off about their friendship or conversations, so that was quite a relief. She has told her fiancé as well, but the three of us have decided to keep it from our other friends, as we see no reason to. My best friend feels super guilty, even though I don't think that she is to blame, but we're both in a very confusing place right now. Obviously, I'm hurt that our relationship has ended this way, but I'm glad he at least had the decency to tell me like this, and nothing actually happened. I believe that if two people are meant to be together, they will be, but it seems that we weren't meant to be together right now. I hope this update finds people who were interested well, and I'm sorry that it's not a happy one. And now in the comments, I think you did the right thing. I'm sorry that your relationship ended, but it sounds like this is for the best. As much as it sucks that the relationship came to an end, everyone really did the right thing here. X informed his partner that he had feelings for someone else, as opposed to trying to act on them. Then he distanced himself instead of threatening the friend's relationship or causing drama in their social circle. OP was open with her friend, where many people would have been resentful, and friend and her fiancé were supportive of OP. Honestly, they all handled this with a lot of maturity. Yeah, it's a rare instance where everyone seems to have acted with maturity. It still hurts for those involved, but because it was handled this way, it may be possible to heal more positively. Maybe not a happy update, but you stood up for yourself and your feelings, and with enough time, you'll realize that you made the right decision. Best of luck to you. I bet with time, adventure, and perspective, you end up with your own happily ever after. Walking away from a good thing because it's not the right thing is very difficult to do, but you did it. You have demonstrated an amazing skill that people twice your age are afraid to do. I've got to give him props that he distanced himself from both girls and refused to engage the crush any further. I was totally expecting him to shoot his shot with the best friend. So happy to have been mistaken. You and me both. Maybe I've been hanging around these parts for too long, but I fully expected the second update to be, so I found them both in my house, just getting out of the shower, or something like that. Man, this is just depressing. Nobody did anything wrong. Like she said, it's understandable why he developed feelings for her friend, but I don't believe being monogamous means you're incapable of developing feelings for other people. The saddest part is, he arguably did the right thing by telling her, and by doing so, lost his girlfriend, his crush, his best friend, the rest of his friend group, pretty much everything. And also damaged her relationship with her best friend. I don't even know what the better play was supposed to be here. Him actively trying to spend less time with the friend when he first noticed this happening? That's what makes this such a sad post for me. Sometimes it's easier to just get mad at a cheating asshole or an abusive spouse. But there is no bad guy here. It's just a bad situation where everyone handled it the best they could, and sadly, there was no easy answer. It's possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. This is one of those situations. He was the bad guy for continuing to spend one-on-one time with her best friend after realizing he had feelings for her. Exactly. Start to notice a crush forming? That frisson of excitement, growing attraction? Step back if you're in a monogamous relationship that you wish to continue. Our next post is titled, "Am I the asshole for telling my aunt to not tell my son a lie about who his father is?" I, 25, have a 6-year-old son named Jonas. When I was 18, I had an affair with my sister's husband, Nate, 43, and when I realized I was pregnant, I ran away from home. I felt terrible because my sister practically raised me, and I might have ruined her marriage because I didn't feel I could get an abortion. My aunt Jane, 55, took me in, and since then, I've been living at her home. My sister never really got why I ran away, and it's made a wedge between us. The only person who knows who Jonas's real dad is my aunt. My sister doesn't know, and I don't think that I can tell her. This entire month, all my son has been asking for Christmas is to meet his dad. I haven't been able to tell him because I don't want to lie, so I haven't really been giving him proper answers. Yesterday, my aunt took Jonas with her on a shopping trip. During it, I guess he bothered her about who my dad is, and she told him a lie that he was a soldier who died, and that's why I don't talk about him. When my aunt told me this, I kind of flipped and told her that she didn't have the right to lie to my son about something like that. My aunt told me that I'm being an asshole telling her not to do that because it was hurting my son. We haven't talked for a few hours now, but I guess I thought that I would get your guys' opinion on if I was right or if I was an asshole. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the asshole. I had an argument with my aunt about her lying to my son about who his real father is. I told her that she couldn't tell him that lie, and she told me that I was being an asshole since not knowing who his dad is was hurting him. Now in the comments, you're the asshole. Your aunt gave you an easy out. If you're not going to tell the truth, don't be mad at her for feeling bad for your son. Can you imagine having to see everyone else with their dads, and your mum simply won't tell you where yours is? Either confess or roll with it, but do it fast. The kid deserves an answer. I do just want to point out something because you and others have called this an easy out when, while correct about her needing to tell the truth, it might be about the worst additional lie that you could come up with. It might be a lie born out of the best of intentions, wanting to protect both OP while finally giving her son an explanation. But the lie itself is not just terrible, it is guaranteed to blow up. Imagine for a second OP goes with the dead soldier story. She doesn't have a name, she doesn't have a unit, she doesn't have a tour of duty. What happens when the child asks for any of that? What happens when the child goes to school or to friends and mentions that his dad was a soldier who died, yet doesn't have any information? What happens if someone else the child tells, or who they tell, is involved with veterans organizations or has Google, or points out that OP and the son aren't getting any sort of benefits? What happens if anyone asks family members for details and none of them can provide any, or worse, seems shocked at the tale to begin with, because they never knew this person existed? People hate when it looks like non-veterans are trying to use the status for clout. They despise it. And unlike saying the father was a drifter or a one-night stand, claiming that the father was a soldier means that there actually needs to be a paper trail. When there isn't one, it'll be called out, and the son, OP, and everyone else involved will be absolutely harmed even more for it, and every attempt to substantiate the lie, make up tours of duty, or stories will only make it infinitely worse. Stolen valor to cover up adultery? Everyone sucks here. This is not adultery. Not fully. She was 18. It looks like grooming by an elder man. Adultery on the sister's husband's side, of course. Yeah, the brother-in-law seems to be a creep. Maybe the sister should know who she married. Some of y'all can't read. Sister and brother-in-law took in OP when she was 6 years old. The moment she was legal, brother-in-law, who was presumably like a father to her, took advantage. They didn't have an affair. The man groomed her and then harmed her. This is the sickest crap I've read in a while. I feel so awful and sad that y'all are telling OP that she was supposed to somehow resist 12 years of grooming, and that she's at fault for sleeping with brother-in-law. OP, I am not going to pass judgment. It took me a long time to recover from CSA, and I didn't have to deal with it being in the family. Right now, it seems like you might not even be aware of how wronged you were by this person, so you have a long journey ahead. But I am begging you to get therapy, and to bring Jonas to therapy too. There are options if you can't afford it. The therapist can help you realize you were not at fault for what happened to you, and how to explain to Jonas about his father. They can also help you work up to confronting sister and brother-in-law about this. Sister deserves to know who she is married to, though if she already knows what this man did and chooses to be married to him, she doesn't deserve to be in your lives, and she is culpable too. Please also consider seeking legal counsel around your parental rights. If brother-in-law finds out Jonas is his child, this could be an issue for you down the road. Brother-in-law already knows Jonas is his. It was revealed in a comment of OP's. The fact that he lacks so much of a conscience that he is guilting OP into staying silent, which keeps her from getting her rightful child support and is causing their son so much turmoil. He is sick in the head. I feel bad for OP and for OP's sister. And now onto the update. I've been getting DMs on this account asking for an update since my first post got removed. I'm thankful to the mods on Am I the Asshole for doing that and giving me resources to calm myself down. The DMs I was getting were giving me very unhealthy thoughts. I asked the mods here before if I could post updates here, and they said that I can. So for everyone who asked, it's here if you're still curious. I wasn't planning on giving an update, but I got signed back onto this account, and I don't know, I thought writing about myself might help me feel better since I've been feeling down the last few days. I've been taking my son Jonas to a child psychologist in regard to how best to tell him about his father. I managed to get a referral from my doctor. I've been going to the sessions with him and explained the situation to the psychologist. It was very hard getting him to accept that my aunt's story about his father being a soldier was just a lie to make him feel better. We have been trying to figure out a strategy to tell him about why he can't see his father, but it's honestly been very hard hearing him talk to the psychologist about his issues not having a father. My aunt has been pushing for me to take therapy myself too, and I agreed at first, but I just don't feel like I can, so I haven't gone because I don't know what I am. And I know what I did, and talking to someone isn't going to change any of that. As for the rest, I've been taking a lot more shifts at the manufacturing plant where I work. I want to be able to send Jonas to the boarding school in our area where my parents wanted me to go. If I can get him in there, then he will be able to go to any university and will have a great future. It sucks because I feel exhausted and worked to the bone, and especially because I see Jonas less now, but it's what I have to do. My aunt said she's willing to pay, so I don't need to work, but she's already given me so much. But I'm not ungrateful or anything. It means a lot to me that she is willing. So I guess I'm doing better, and Jonas has also been doing better in regards to who his father is. And here's what is important to me. I wasn't really sure what I'd be writing about when I decided to write this, but I guess it's like a Dear Diary thing, except people can talk about what I wrote without knowing me. And now in the comments, I really think you should talk to a therapist for yourself. The best thing you can do for your son is give him a healthy and happy mother. Reading the language of your post, you shoulder a lot of responsibility, even for things that you shouldn't. You were living with your sister as a child, and as you became a legal adult. I think you're scared to talk to a therapist because you know deep down her husband groomed you, and it was not as consensual as you want to think. We like to protect ourselves from uncomfortable truths by taking on more responsibility than was our due, so we feel like we are in control. Please, please work through this with your own therapist. I think it will truly help both you and your son in the long run. You were groomed by a trusted adult. This was not your fault. Your family needs to know that your sister's husband is a predator. I am so sorry. Honestly, it sounds like you have a warped view of what happened still, like you blame yourself. You were 18 and had an affair with your sister's husband. You said your sister practically raised you, so I assume you had extensive contact with her husband when you were growing up. He groomed you. Yes, you made choices, but he was much more in the wrong than you, and you shouldn't blame yourself for his predatory behaviors. In the original comment, OP apparently stated she lost her parents and moved in with her sister when she was 6. The husband knows that OP was pregnant with his child and told her to stay away from his family, as otherwise she would just cause unhappiness and ruin everything. She was groomed and then ran out of town by the husband. I think we can all offer you a lot of advice, but I would strongly urge you to proceed with therapy. There is more to both therapy and your situation than you understand. You deserve to have someone listen and offer objective support on your situation. Even your aunt can't do that. From what you've written, your low opinion of yourself in relation to the affair seems to be affecting how you behave, and is possibly bleeding into your son's perception of you, and by proxy, himself. I think you could in time be surprised at how much therapy will change your opinion of yourself in a more positive way. From a motivational perspective, consider that going to therapy could be really good for you to be a stronger parent for your son and to help you learn how to address these issues in a way that is best for him too. And now on to the second update. So I did start seeing the psychologist, but I honestly hated going. It was the worst because I just started feeling really angry. My aunt made me switch psychologists, but this second one just kept saying the same stuff that the other one did, and I just kept on feeling really angry. Like I just wanted to yell and punch my reflection. My aunt made me switch psychologists again after I left a session crying, and I admitted all the angry thoughts that I was getting. I didn't feel comfortable going alone, so I made my aunt start going with me. I just felt so alone with the last one, and I needed her with me. I think it made a difference, even though she doesn't talk at all during the sessions, unless the psychologist or I bring her up. I don't know, I just feel safe with her around. This psychologist makes the same points as the last one, and the same points that so many of you made, and it still hurts because it feels like I had no free will in the decision that I would become such a failure. I've read my mum's diary, and I know she and my dad wanted me to go to the same boarding school that I want to send Jonas to, and they wanted so badly for me to go to university, and I can't accept that I never even had any real choice in failing their dreams. When I told the psychologist about my anger issues, she told my aunt to take me to the doctor since I was very clearly depressed, and we went and I got diagnosed with clinical depression and was prescribed pills. I don't want to take them because I've heard stories about addiction, and I don't want to risk getting addicted because then what'll happen to my son? So, I've been having my aunt keep them locked up and away from me until it's time for me to have it, unless I'm at work and she gives them in my work bag. I've only just started taking them 2 months ago. I don't know if there has been any effect on me or not. I do feel a lot less angry, so I guess they have. With Jonas, I finally told him during his therapy session following his child psychologist plan that things with his dad weren't good, and he didn't want us, and that's why I had to move in with my aunt. I told him that I was scared that if we saw his dad, that he would take him away from me. Jonas was so angry first at me, and every session since then breaks my heart because he cries so much now about not meeting his dad. For my work situation, there is positive news, and that is why I'm posting. My supervisor, who was on maternity leave, announced she would not be returning to the position, so a month ago, I was given the interim role. My boss said that since I did so good, he was going to officially promote me. Since I became the new supervisor, I have been making all the money that I did working overtime and extra shifts on regular hours, while it is also less physically demanding. Some users pointed out to me in the old update that working like I was doing was going to cause me permanent physical damage in the future, and for my son's sake, I can't let that happen. Since I got the promotion, I have been able to spend a lot more time with him, and I am most grateful about that. I hope that this satisfies everyone who has been giving me DMs, and that you can see that things are getting better for me for now. And now in the comments, if 3 different psychologists all say the same thing, that's probably the issue. I'm willing to bet they're all saying she got groomed by her sister's husband, and she psychologically can't accept that. It would explain why the aunt is so insistent of keeping dad out of the kid's life. I have talked to her in DMs long ago, and she said she understands that. I was a bit rude first, and then realized she has been groomed by sister's husband. I've told her that she has been groomed, and she should talk to her sister about it, partly for her to understand, and other part refuse to accept it that groomer asshole is still playing the nice guy part. That's what I hate. She was 18 and he was 40 when it happened. Why did I DM her? I don't comment in Am I the Asshole. I have my reasons, so I just commented my observation, and she didn't clarify many details at first, like she lives with her sister, and she cheats with her sister's husband and gets pregnant with his child, and moves away, and she was marked as the asshole in Am I the Asshole because she didn't put information down, and she edited in the comments, and then the post, I just said, your sister deserved the truth, she is still living with a lie, you're the asshole. I wish they would explain to her that in no way are antidepressants addictive. She really should not avoid taking them for that reason. That's why they had to come up with discontinuation syndrome, as withdrawal makes people think addiction. To paraphrase Half-Baked, I've sucked dick for cocaine. You ever sucked dick for Prozac? No? Get the F out of here. They're not habit-forming, they are curative. Even then, stuff like Prozac only kicks in over weeks at a time. They are not even an efficient way to get high. I once double-dosed on Wellbutrin, about 2 hours of euphoria, and then just jitters and misery until the next day. -11 out of 10 would not recommend. I suspect she's conflating anti-anxiety meds like Xanax with modern antidepressants. Quote, my aunt has been pushing for me to take therapy myself too, and I agreed at first, but I just don't feel like I can, so I haven't gone because I know what I am, and I know what I did, and talking to someone isn't going to change any of that. This part broke my heart for OP, and the fact she's gone through 3 different therapists because they're all telling her that she isn't the person she describes here is just oof. She 100% got groomed by Nate, who was smart enough not to touch her until she turned 18 and could be considered a consenting adult. Also, the way she keeps calling herself a failure in her update just hurts to read. I really hope she gets to the point where she stops beating herself up for being young, naive, and put in a bad position, and starts making positive progress on her own self-worth. She's got a supportive aunt, and she can always go back to university if she wants it for herself. Also, I hope she drops the whole boarding school thing, because it's just weird. But if sending the kid to school gives her the mental space to fix her own crap, then good. Am I the asshole for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll? I, 26 male, have been with my still girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 4 years. Last year, I gave her a key to my house. She spends a few days there, but we don't live together full time. A few days ago, I had to make a quick trip for work. She asked me if she could invite a few of her friends to the house for a girls' night. It was on Thursday, and I accepted. I returned yesterday in the morning. The first thing I noticed was the rag doll missing from the wall. My first instinct was to call my girlfriend to ask if she had put it somewhere. She denied it and said the doll was there. It wasn't. I checked the GPS of the doll. Yes, it has GPS, and the GPS marked the house of one of her friends. Let's call her Jess. I tried to be nice and told my girlfriend to tell her friend to bring it back before 5 p.m. and I'll pretend this never happened. Or I will involve the police. She tried to fight, but I told her about the GPS. Well, my girlfriend called me back, saying that Jess denied having the doll. We had a huge argument and warned her that I wasn't playing about getting the police involved. I waited until 5 and went to the police. We went to her house and got the doll back, and I pressed charges. My girlfriend and I had a bigger argument about me pressing charges. They, including her, know the doll was made by my father. They could have stolen anything else, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I gave her friend a chance, and she tried to play stupid. They've been calling me an arsehole and asking me to drop the charges. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the arsehole. I might be the arsehole for pressing charges against my girlfriend's friend for stealing my doll when I could retrieve it by myself without involving the police. To me, the issue with you going to retrieve it yourself without involving the police is the potential for it to escalate from there. I think if you involve them from the get-go, it takes the onus off of you and forces them to give you the doll back without a break-and-enter situation, without a violent situation from the police's lens. I personally think you did the right thing here, and I don't understand why they lied to you so much along the way. So I'm gonna go with not the arsehole for this one. And now in the comments, not the arsehole, and definitely don't drop the charges. To me, it's all about principle ATP. Your girlfriend should have supported you. She chose to support her friend. You gave her friend the opportunity to handle this without involving the police, but she declined. You were robbed, and you've been more than fair about it. Not the arsehole. Why should you drop the charges? You told your girlfriend that you knew without a doubt that her friend had your doll because of the GPS, and the friend still lied. Why do people always think that people should get away with stupid crap because they are a friend of a friend? What she did was wrong, and you gave her the opportunity to make it right before involving the law, and she chose not to. Why is your girlfriend defending her thief friend? You are most definitely not the arsehole. The fact your girlfriend and her friend, I'm assuming that they were both in on it, which may not be the case, stole the doll in the first place, is incredibly rude, and sure enough illegal. Then to try and bluff it out and say the doll wasn't at the second girlfriend's house, when obviously it was, is over the top stupid. Your girlfriend was in on this, or at least knew about it, and still is trying to get you to drop the charges. I wouldn't just be thinking about breaking up with her, it would have been done and gone as soon as the doll was back in your possession. I can't imagine anyone staying as a guest in someone else's home actually stealing something. Anything, no matter if it was a toothpick or one of Elvis's gold records, would be totally out of my repertoire of behaviors, and I wouldn't put up with it from anyone else. And now up to the post, we have an edit. I will answer some of your questions here. If you have more, I will try to answer them. The doll is with me. It's a rag doll. Better said, it's a Raggedy Ann doll. My father had many more hobbies. He tried making dolls and was planning to sell them, but the first one he made was a frickin' Raggedy Ann doll, so it didn't last. He was too manly to sell Raggedy Ann dolls, which is ridiculous, I know. He gave me that one, and actually, he made 4 more for my best friends. The doll was hanging in my room, but once he passed away, I hung it in the living room. It has X's as eyes and looks creepy because it looks dead. It has a GPS because my home was robbed 7 months ago. I don't care if they clean the house as long as they leave the doll. I've more expensive items that she could have stolen, so I don't know why she would steal the bloody doll other than a sick joke. And my girlfriend has never complained about it, at least not to me. I haven't talked to her, other than telling her to drop the charges. I will talk to her tomorrow to find out why she let her friend take the doll. They've been here before and never did anything like this. And about our relationship, because right now, I'm thinking about breaking up. I hope I do this right. Before the update, I want to give some context about why the doll is so important to me and to correct myself for saying that he was too manly to sell dolls. My father got sick just before I was 15, kidney failure. He retired and filled his time with hobbies. A year after his diagnosis, I came from school one day and he was finishing the doll. I asked him if he was going to sell it. He said yes, but not anymore. I asked him why, and he replied with, "Who would buy a doll from a man who looks angry 24/7? Before his diagnosis, my father would have laughed about it. He would have made more to fill a big box, knock on every door, and sell them all. But now, he was worried about what people would say. If he could sell them, anxious, less energetic, less confident, doubtful, afraid. None of this was in his mind before. The illness was not only beating his body, but also his mind. We thought that we had made peace with his disease and the time he had left, but reality finally caught up with us. It was a turning point in the way that we moved forward. I have other things that my father made. I carry some with me, others are in a safe. I tried to put the doll in a box, in a closet, I even tried to give it away once. I just don't have the heart to do it. It gives me peace to see it out there. The tracker may seem excessive, but not for me. My ex knew about this. And now, on to the update. Many of you hit the nail on the head. My ex came over yesterday. She was a mess. She explained that she actually had a problem with the doll, but instead of telling me, she went to her friends. They told her that it was creepy, weird for a grown man to have a doll, and that I was too attached to it. This only reinforced her feelings. This was a regular topic between them, and they came up with ideas to get rid of the doll, but she never followed them, until Thursday. Her friends were fed up with her for not doing something, as we were planning to move in together. Before they left, my ex and Jess talked. They agreed that Jess would take the doll, and my ex would take care of the rest. My ex forgot the GPS, and when I confronted her, she panicked. She actually called Jess and told her about it, but Jess told her not to worry, that I wouldn't do anything about it. But she was obviously wrong. I broke up with her. She tried to plead and even suggested couples therapy, but I just couldn't stand being with her anymore. I called my lawyer, and I told them that we can continue with the process, but nothing will come out of it, even with my ex's confession. He will try either way. I've already changed the locks and I'm buying cameras for the whole house. I would like to thank all of you who took the time with my mess. I never thought that this would get the attention that it got. I'll try to answer some more questions if you have them, and I hope everything goes well with all of you, and thank you again. Now in the comments, we can go to couples therapy. My response would have been, why? I didn't do anything wrong. This is a you problem. It's a good thing that that doll had GPS. He would not have gotten that back otherwise. Ha, excellent. I recommend you do that with your idiot friends. Heirlooms from a dead parent, no matter how meaningless or trivial they might appear to others, are priceless and irreplaceable. OP's ex must be brain dead to think taking the doll wouldn't be a big deal. The only thing I had of my father's was a digital watch. I wore it to make homecoming floats a year after he died. It was 90+ degrees in the building, and I took it off because the band was plastic. Frickin' Jason stole it. I still hate him 25 years later. With any luck, a mosquito will bite him in the center of his back, where he can't reach to scratch it, and that he randomly steps on a single Lego brick or 4-sided die when he gets up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. And that someone at the office randomly tips and spills a bunch of thumbtacks onto his seat just as he's sitting down. Nail was hit right on the head. I feel bad for OP though. It's obviously incredibly meaningful to him, and the fact that his girlfriend was willing to destroy that and hurt him for nothing more than not having to see it is despicable. A real partner would say, hey, I find this creepy, but I know that it means a lot to you. Can you move it to some place that I don't have to see it all the time? But, why communicate when you can attempt to destroy highly personal items and destroy your entire relationship in the process? So she knew how much it meant to OP and still decided to go behind his back without ever actually telling him. Yeah, stealing the doll is one thing, but the avoiding conflict with your partner and sneaking behind their back to do something that if found out would destroy their relationship, yet even if not found out, the something would hurt their partner. That was a very selfish, manipulative, and callous act that speaks volumes. This woman needs serious therapy and self-reflection before ever entering another serious relationship. It's awful that people think they can just throw away people's stuff when it bothers them. Stupid that she thought that he wouldn't notice or care when she knew the sentimental value attached. Wild that she would risk throwing away a whole-ass relationship because she couldn't stand a doll. It's great that OP didn't cave, and the only thing that was ultimately thrown away was the trash. Our next post is titled, "Parents expect me, 17 female, to stay past turning 18 to continue to be a live-in nanny and help them with their house payments. I have been sitting on this for a very long time, and have waited until I was at a semi-safe / moderately safe place to say anything. I'm hopefully moving out on the 28th and feel like I can post this, and whether they see it or not, there is nothing that they can truly do at this point. It's kind of long, but this is a long story that took place over several years, so I feel like I've condensed it with enough detail to make somewhat sense. I've been watching my 3 younger siblings since I was 14, and we had just moved to a different state, and at that point, the youngest kid was 2.5, now 6. Up until then, I'd never had a very good relationship with any of them, barely hung out with them, stayed mostly at or with my grandmother, didn't even have a good relationship with my parents, and was resentful of them because of my parents', mum and stepdad, very obvious favoritism of them. It started small, just an hour or two, and then quickly devolved into watching them for hours on end into the night when they made friends with neighbors and went out, to watching them nearly full time, and when the parents were home, just before the pandemic hit. I watched them with no pay, unless you count them feeding, housing, not giving me to an abuser as payment like they did, until then. And they started with $25 a week. No exceptions, and it didn't matter how much I actually worked, and I never actually touched any cash. They would buy things for me if they had money on the side from their own spending. The pandemic made it very, very easy to guilt trip me into watching them all the time and sacrificing everything. There are several different stories I could tell, but some of the quick points are, I let them pull me from school to do all virtual despite having some apprehension. They pressed this solely so I could watch and pick up the kids after they went to school. I let them pay me, and then hold this pay over my head. I'd be nothing without them. They'll just not even offer the gracious money they're offering, and make me do it anyway. They'll kick me out or stop feeding me, etc. So I let them continue to pull me out of school for my senior year. Which is another long story, and I'd always said through the pandemic that I wanted to do my senior year in person. I let them ruin my relationship with my girlfriend for a long while before I put my foot down and repaired it. Going steady since sophomore year, as serious as a high school level relationship can get. And I let them take my opportunity to get a job/license and work for them instead with 45 to 60 hour work weeks babysitting. These kids are not angels. Hell, not even part angel. They go unchecked and undisciplined. I am the only one they even semi-listen to, and that's a 50-50 chance. They run around like banshees, hit and scream, and are just generally bad kids. They're constantly on a screen and have been for as long as I remember, watching scary videos and murdery videos, and things that generally young children shouldn't be watching. They stay up as late as I do, as I've had trouble sleeping literally since I was a baby, and I'm trying to help myself without becoming dependent on melatonin and such, so I don't become immune, and sometimes even later. For reference, that can mean 4 to 5 to 6 a.m., and I sometimes get knocks at my door asking for food and such. It's not just me who says these things. This includes my grandmother who watches them when we go back to our hometown, my family who sees them, my girlfriend's family who has seen them act this way, their teachers, etc. also say this, or they just say it more politely. The youngest is the worst, going the most unchecked and ignored, and when she's bad it's she has ADHD, so... No, it is not an excuse, not even a diagnosis. You just don't parent her, and don't want to help her, Mum. I have ADD. diagnosed, unmedicated, because my mum refused to medicate me after the last pills made it difficult to maintain weight and gave me facial tics. I understand that sometimes it's not fun or easy for people to be around me, but even I can say I don't think she has ADHD, or even if she does have it, I think she has a mum who doesn't discipline her and instead encourages bad behaviors. It's ridiculous. The middle kid is becoming more mature at 9, but still unchecked and doesn't listen. The oldest, who is now 12, is realizing his parents don't actually parent, and is becoming resentful as the younger girls get favored because he's getting prepped to be the next me. I understand the whole older kids babysitting younger kids thing, but you cannot expect a 14-year-old who barely recognized her siblings' voices to be able to cope well with that kind of childcare job. Hell, I don't even really like children, and even as a kid, I didn't really hang out with younger kids than me because I found them annoying. Ironic, I know, because I was probably just as annoying. Making me do this made me resent them even more, in all honesty. It was exhausting, and made me a resentful person for a while. And I'm still very angry and have a lot of pent-up frustration that I'm trying to work through. I don't think I've ever been capable of caring properly for these kids, in my honest opinion, and they should have either a real babysitter or after-school care. I have had several breakdowns and just am not mentally well enough for this job, and my concerns and valid points for this have been ignored. When we moved towns, 23-minute drive between my house and my girlfriend's house for reference, they got very, very bold. My biological dad is dead, and because of that, my mother receives a survivor's check with stipulations as to where it can be spent. My entire family bashes her for refusing to use that money correctly and abusing it, and it's an extremely sore and sensitive spot between us, especially with all of the jokes that they use my check for themselves and that the money isn't really for me but them, and how they quite literally refused to let me stay in my hometown where I was happier and healthier because that meant they would lose the check. They have openly admitted they were never, ever going to let me know of its existence because they didn't want me to know. I found out the only reason they can afford the house we're in is because of the check. They depend on this despite having a second job and well-paying government jobs. You might say, well, the pandemic, but no. They've admitted if they just cut back on frivolous things like that $1,000 armchair they bought in December, and my mum's purses, and all of their bullcrap, they would be able to do it on their own. They guilt-trip me by saying that if I don't stay, they will lose the house and it'll be all my fault. Eventually, it all came to a head in October. I'd put my foot down and demanded I get a job. I needed money for college and had nothing to show for my life and had no way to pay for college, not even get a license to get there at that point. This ended in a huge blowout fight where I did some things I regret. I called names, kicked a recycling can over, punched a wall, got in my parents' face when they did mine, essentially stooped to their level, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but I will own up to my mistakes. And she trashed my room and told me she would never let me leave, and that as long as I was her kid, I had no say in anything, and that my life was hers to control, essentially. She went on a rampage, saying how she would take all contact to everyone that I knew away, and how she would make everyone hate me, and how she'd make it so I couldn't physically leave because I was all alone and had no one. I am extremely afraid of this. I'm afraid of people leaving me. I'm afraid of people not coming back, and she knew this and she said it all. I snapped out of it at that point, realized I had a scared dog upstairs who would be coming back to my bedroom with glass everywhere because my mum threw a box of 20 or so glass bottles on the floor, which were collected for recycling, realized I had a girlfriend who I loved, who I wanted in my life, school to attend that I couldn't if she were to take my laptop, and that I would still have to watch her kids to just effing eat and actually survive here. I immediately backpedaled and apologized and went along with what she was saying. I was promised therapy, pills, help with the kids, whatever bullcrap she spilled out, and I knew everything was a lie. I refused to watch them until we had an agreement, and then I was paid $32 a week flat. I'd be leaving Friday to Sunday for a real job in my old town with my girlfriend, so I lost Friday's money. Whatever, I'd be making way more at the new job. Supposed to be in cash, but that stopped about a month afterward, where I was put on a Cash App card, but only with whatever they could spare depending on my wants and their extra money that they didn't spend. Since then, I've been threatened to be held at my house so I would be fired with my phone turned off because my job's policy is if you don't show up to a scheduled shift without any kind of notice, with an exception to emergencies of course, then you're fired. They run a formal restaurant that is successful and cannot risk liabilities like people who don't show up, which I understand. I've been avoiding a bank account because I don't want her to have access to my money. I cash my money with my girlfriend and hold it at her house, not mine. I'm currently looking for a car, and am currently waiting to make a DMV appointment the week of my birthday, hopefully, along with a bank/savings account and walker's license. They've been getting more and more aggressive with saying that I'm not leaving, to the point that it's mentioned at least once a day. At first it was, you aren't leaving until you graduate so we have someone to watch the kids. Then it was, they needed my check to pay their mortgage and wouldn't get it unless I stayed. And now it's that I'll stay up until the end, or beginning of, depending on their mood I guess, summer to help them in their time of need. They've threatened to put me in a psych ward, to have me arrested, to give my family members up for things they have asked them to do to guilt trip me, and to have my girlfriend's parents arrested for harboring me as a runaway after I'm 18. I don't think they can do that unless I'm in danger, which I'm not, and her family can pass a wellness check with flying colors, which I agree with. I can also prove that I have a paying job, nutritious food to eat, and a safe place to stay. I am not a nanny. I have been prevented in furthering my life, and I've been withheld from getting the necessary things to survive on my own. I owe nothing to them or their kids, and in self-preservation, have to let them be on their own and figure out their own crap. I didn't want kids. I didn't buy a house I couldn't afford and depend on a government check to help me get along. I need to go to school to get the kind of job I want. I'll answer any questions in the comments. And edit, I would like to thank every single person in the comments. I appreciate all the kind words and advice I've received, and am taking a lot of it to heart. Crap hit the fan only about 3 or 4 days after I posted this, and the situation is ever evolving and more complicated than I'd like to admit. I will post again by the end of the week with a full update and explanation of everything that happened, and until then, would like anyone who is concerned to know that both my dog and I are safe for the time being. And now in the comments, those are not loving people. They are parasites who want to leech from you. Get out of there as soon as possible. Find any and all important documents you can and hide them somewhere safe. I am so sorry that you are having to go through this. Is there an adult that you could talk to, or maybe your girlfriend's parents could help? If you can trust them enough, I would seriously try to get their help. Run as far as you can, OP, and don't look back. And OP replies, I have my birth certificate, social security card, and a copy of my dad's death certificate at her house tucked away in her mum's filing cabinet. My girlfriend's parents are helping me move out on the 28th and taking me, my dog, and my stuff, mostly essentials like clothes and sentimental stuff, but I'm especially spiteful of the bed that I had to pay for because they refused to get me one after my futon was putting me in so much pain that I was in tears and want to take that to give to their 6 dogs as a big dog bed. They've extended me the offer they have with their own children because they consider me one of their own, which is, as long as I'm working and in school, they'll cover food and housing until I graduate because they want to see me succeed. We didn't want to risk running before then because of the runaway laws possibly backfiring on us, but I plan on giving them a 2 weeks notice on the 14th and recording their reactions for my own protection, voice recordings, phone in pocket. Mostly a courtesy because it'll give them 2 weeks to find a babysitter or contact the school for their after-school programs. If it gets violent, I'm leaving then and there and just have to call and they'll back me up. If it doesn't, I'll wait, but I don't plan on staying beyond the 28th for anything. I've also covered them holding me at my house with my boss, and she said she would rather have me than not, and said to just let her know if crap hits the fan, which I am extremely grateful for, and am planning on getting them a thank you gift for. I also took my teacher aside on a private Google Meet and told her about me switching counties and credits not transferring, and they have said that they will make an exception for me since I'm so close to graduating and transferring means I'll need another year. I'm extremely grateful and lucky that I have many people like this to help me, and I understand wholeheartedly that this could be completely flipped. Do not give them 2 weeks' notice. If you do, they will do everything in their power to keep you there. Let them know as you are starting to move out. Also, make sure that someone is outside waiting. If you don't start coming out with your stuff within a certain time, have them call the police to make sure you can peacefully move out. You owe them nothing, especially not a 2-week notice that you were leaving. Also, make sure the local police know that you're okay and you are a legal 18-year-old and do not want your parents to be informed as to where you live. Also, try and find any info you can about the money from your dad, even if it's just the name of the lawyer's office or something. They seem like the type of people that will try and collect what is yours even after you are gone. And OP replies, I'm working with my girlfriend's mom to go through the steps to get the check either transferred to her or me, or terminated if I can't. That money isn't for someone to profit off of freely and can go to someone who needs it. And now onto the update. My dog and I are safely moved out and okay. A lot went down in the past 2 weeks and my mental health wasn't too great after leaving, so my update is a bit late as I didn't want to just babble nonsense and overwhelm myself further. I do want to state before you read this post that I understand that some of my actions weren't necessarily the best choices and that I know some of my actions were influenced by guilt tripping and manipulation. I'm okay with my current situation/agreement as it's incredibly temporary, and I don't think there would have been a more peaceful resolution. A few days after posting my original entitled parent story, I revealed to them that I was leaving. I did this because they were already starting to poke around and ask questions, and I knew they were going to find out either way. I wanted to be a bit in control of the situation and didn't want to risk getting caught off guard. I can say honestly it was the best solution, knowing what I know now and what happened after I told them. I attempted to talk to them calmly with my girlfriend and dog in the car across the street and me as the only one in the house. It was a safeguard in case anything got physically violent, because if it did, I would walk out and leave and would 100% tell police. I didn't feel safe if they continued to pursue me. This backfired a bit as they were very, very upset and said things I just can't forgive them for, but I'd already anticipated the freakout. I was told that I would be cutting off all my bridges to them, and if I ever had to ask them for help or come back, that I'd be doing every house chore that they could think of, and I'd have to quit my job to watch the kids 24/7, even on weekends. That my relationship with my girlfriend was abusive and unsafe and unhealthy, and that I was manipulated by her to move in. That they didn't want me anymore, that I was screwing them over, and that it didn't matter if I was trying to better my life because it didn't benefit them, etc. I would like to point out that they had told me in the fight that they hoped that I wouldn't lose my job because I wasn't leaving for the next 2 weeks, and how that would look on me for applying for new ones. I didn't let on that I already talked to my boss. I had anticipated and even heard much of this before, so I just kind of sat quietly and reiterated that I wasn't changing my mind on moving out. They still weren't happy, but I talked to my girlfriend in the car for a while afterward and eventually sent her home after calming down. My mother had already contacted my grandmother, someone whose opinions means a lot to me, to try and convince me to stay until at least the end of the school year. She had my grandmother bug me until about a day before I left and try to guilt trip me into staying. My mother also used the fact that my grandfather has cancer. How are you going to get up to par? You're not even going to see Pappy before he dies. Against me, and other older family members on my dad's side, to try and convince me to stay by saying if I don't stay, they won't take me up there and it is expensive to go. I refused to stay, and it ended in a few days of quiet tension between all of us before we started talking again. I was then told that I could actually leave for work, and that she said that when she was mad. Why would you think that would stand? It resulted in me leaving for the weekend. My most important valuables had been moved out, stuff like my dead dad's hat, stuff from my baby box, some trinkets from family, etc. We fought for the remainder of the 2 weeks, going back and forth on compromises and what I was going to do and how I was going to care for myself. I will point out the big fights and talks, as they are important. After coming back from that weekend, I sat down with them per their request to talk about potential situations. They said they genuinely couldn't afford the house and childcare, showed me that no one was even responding to their ads, and that after-school care services were all booked in our area. I said fine, then let's talk about it, but I'm A, not giving up any days I could potentially work at my job, and B, not agreeing to anything at this point because I need time to think. The potential plan we came up with was I come home on Sundays, my stepdad would pick me up, and my girlfriend would pick me up Wednesday to take me to work in the same fashion of how we'd do it on Fridays. I walked away from that conversation with both of us agreeing that I agreed to nothing we talked about. I then got texted later that night, 1-ish in the morning, asking if potentially 8 to 9 p.m. was good for a Sunday pickup. I tried to avoid the question and ask something else, but he was persistent until I finally said, yeah, that could potentially work if we do that. Intentionally vague / not agreeing that it was a permanent solution. My girlfriend refused to drive me back and forth, which I agreed with as it's an hour's drive back and forth, and as they needed me, and because they refused to help me get my own license when I wanted and needed it, they should be the ones to drive me. I came up with a solution of, well, maybe I could give them Wednesdays if I had them off. Otherwise, the other babysitter they'd managed to find for part-time work could do the Wednesdays that I couldn't. They flipped again, saying I was going back on our agreement and I was lying and a manipulative little crap, and that I wasn't being reasonable and I was again effing them over. I reiterated I didn't agree to anything. I never agreed to even stay in any capacity, and I was pissed that they attempted to gaslight me into believing that I did. It ended in another argument, where very much things were said again, but I just kind of ignored it, stuck to my guns, and they relented. I didn't give them Wednesdays because I wasn't comfortable with it anymore, because I couldn't trust them to get me to my job on Wednesday reliably, and I didn't really want to be there more than I had to, and their other babysitter agreed to take Wednesdays. It ended in an argument over Messenger while she was at work, where she essentially told me that when I worked next, I could pack my stuff up and leave. She then texted my girlfriend and her parents a huge list of all my problems, and how I'm just using them and waiting for my chance to screw them over too, including discussing my psychiatric hospital visits and past parental abuse. Hospital visits mostly because of the parental abuse, and I was freshly 13 at my last visit. They said they dismissed it because they'd A, known me for 3 years at this point, and what my mum was saying wasn't lining up with what they saw, and B, they weren't going to take my mum's word when she was acting crazy and revealing things they weren't even sure if I was comfortable discussing out of a therapist's office. I am incredibly grateful for them, and have told them that if I ever do anything to wrong them, I expect punishment, but that I'd never intentionally wrong them. I really do love them like my family, and would protect them like they are. She came home, tried to say that me buying myself and my siblings pizza the other night was trying to get brownie points before screwing them over, and that I was being an ass. I had no ulterior motives with the pizza. I just wanted pizza and felt guilty ordering some and not sharing because the kids had wanted pizza for the past 2 weeks, so I just bought them some too. I was prepared to leave that night and had all my stuff packed, and said as such, and she flipped again. It resulted in a fight where she slandered my deceased father. I'm not sure if what she said was true, and I'm not really willing to find out. Name-called, said that I would come crawling back, that she would always love me as her firstborn but hated the person I was, begged for me to stay and help. It ended with both of us walking away unhappy until we talked about it later that night again. What it's come down to is this. I work Monday and Tuesday, they drive me to and from, meaning they pick me up Sunday and drop me back off Tuesday. My stepdad gets a work-from-home job in April after training through March, and then I no longer have to come over at all, and they will leave me alone. They want nothing to do with my dog at all, even just to spite me. My mum doesn't like him, and neither does my stepdad, so they said that if I didn't take him, they'd dump him. I scheduled my permit test wrong, and it got rescheduled for the 16th. But good news is, I have studied enough that I'm 100% sure that I'll pass, and my girlfriend's mom said not to pay for a walker's license because it's a very short wait, and after I get the permit, I can get the bank account and such. I'm trying to figure out what's going on with my social security check, and am in contact with the office and school, and trying to figure out how to change this stuff. My mom wants half of it, and she said she'll be quiet if she gets it. So I'm debating just sacrificing that half for the sake of peace of mind and sanity, since I have a steady job and am planning on picking up another after April. I'm sorry if this isn't what people wanted, but I've seen what they do to people to get revenge if you F them over. The way she talked to me during the last fight tells me she no longer sees me as her kid in any capacity, just somebody that she will F over if I don't at least agree to the bare minimum like I did. But after April, I'm no longer useful, and I will get forgotten just like everyone else, which is why I'm even agreeing to it in the first place. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. I understand some of this is a bit rambly and emotional, but I'm not sure how else to write it. And now in the comments, you shouldn't give them any money at all. You save them enough by babysitting. Make a clean break, especially after March, since stepdad will be work from home. I'm glad you're getting yourself out, and thank you for providing an update. But OP, do not give your parents a single cent of your social security checks or any paycheck. That money is for you to build your own life. They are adults who need to make their own financial decisions. You are not hurting your family by keeping your rightful earned and owed money to yourself. I don't know if I read it correctly, but she agreed to help them for a month after moving out until the stepdad starts his work from home job. Those people are evil, misusing her survivor's benefits check and treating her like a 24/7 nanny. And the saddest thing is, who knows if the checks will continue after 18. Oof. I just looked it up, and I could be misunderstanding, but it seems her benefits will stop when she graduates high school, unless she is disabled. She can also apply to get benefits during college. My siblings and I got them in high school, and now in college. These parents need to be reported. I hope OP has stuff documented because, Jesus Christmas, OP should just run and cut their losses. They were never anything but a slave to their parents. They will try to keep abusing and bringing OP back into the fold. Yup, this abuse and gaslighting will never stop. They are fully using OP and will abandon them the second they don't get their way again. I'd take pleasure in telling them to go F themselves and then never seeing them again. I already feel bad for the 12-year-old. No kid should develop a "I'm going to be the next servant" type of awareness. If the OP really wanted to give his or her parents something to cry about, they should report them to DSS. Just lay out all of the abuse the parents put them through, the parentification, the financial abuse, the emotional abuse, the indentured servitude, everything. Then tell DSS the 12-year-old is being set up to be the next Jane Eyre in this house, and that they need to help these children out before they become enslaved to their parents. But wait, there's more. Find out if their state has a system of guardians ad litem. Get the contact info for the GAL office, and then stop by there and ask to speak with the coordinator. Move heaven and earth to get a volunteer GAL for the siblings, not an attorney. Getting Mumsy and Daddy caught up with the family court, DSS, and takes no crap GAL will make them curse the day that they were born. I don't think this is over. Me neither. I have an ugly feeling in my stomach that as soon as they realize OP really isn't going back and they can't manipulate and abuse them anymore, that they are going to do something very ugly. For OP's sake, I hope they have everything documented and safeguarded. I feel they're planning something way over the top, but I'm really hoping that they end up doing something illegal and they have to pay for every single thing they did to this poor kid. I hate what my newborn has done to my life. New dad here. I need to rant and I have nowhere else to go. It's been 3.5 weeks since we gave birth to our first child. I am now the most miserable numb I have ever been in my entire life and numb to everything around me. Nothing gives me joy anymore, and I've lost any sense of purpose. My wife and I were always planning on having kids, planning to start trying in a few years, but got bored during the pandemic and accidentally got pregnant. If I knew what my life would be like now, I would have never had a baby. One could say everything with the pregnancy went as good as we could have possibly asked for. Optimistic mummies and daddies would call it the greatest gift and tell us how we are so lucky that we had an easy time getting pregnant and a smooth pregnancy. And although my wife had to have a C-section because the baby was too large, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy, and I hate everything about him and what he has done to our lives. I hate the constant 24/7 attention. I hate the seemingly never-ending screaming. I hate how useless he is. He just eats, shits, cries, and sleeps all day. I hate that he put my wife and her body through 9 months of torture and now months of slow post-birth recovery. I hate that I no longer have free time for myself. I hate that I don't get any alone time with my wife and our dogs. I hate that we haven't been intimate in weeks. I hate that even if we were to try and be, we can't be, because the baby needs constant attention. I hate that we moved out of the city that we lived in for more space and have a more flexible, car-dependent lifestyle. I hate that my wife and I sleep in separate bedrooms because I'm a miserable, grouchy F if I'm woken up 4 times throughout the night. And I didn't realize how irrationally angry and triggered I would get by uncontrollable newborn screaming. Everyone told me being a parent is so great, but I just don't think it is. It seems effing miserable. I don't want to do this for the next 18 years. I can't believe that I now get joy out of running errands and getting out of the house that I pay for each month. And I am happiest now that I am back at work and not focused on being a caretaker. Of course, I also work from home because of COVID, so I don't ever really get to escape. I'm tired, I'm annoyed, I get no pleasure spending time with my kid, nothing feels rewarding, and although I help my wife as much as I can after I wrap up work, I feel a constant sense of guilt that she is doing the heavy lifting. Ironically, I should be happy. I'm further in my career than I ever could imagine at my age. I am financially stable, have no real issues, and have a generally flexible and comfortable lifestyle. But I am so effing over this phase of my life. I feel like I want to fast forward to the time when this kid is at daycare all day and daydream about moving back to where our parents live so they can watch the baby all day. But they live on the other side of the country, and this would be devastating to my career. It has been 4 weeks that feels like 4 months, and I just want to be happy again. And now in the comments, I mean, I can identify with a lot of what you wrote. It's a transition period for most and requires adjustment. One small note though, he didn't do anything to your wife's body. She is not a victim in this, and neither are you. Those are some pretty powerful emotions you're pointing at your son, and they don't do anyone any good. Also, side note, but barring actual medical conditions, mum's bodies bounce back a lot quicker than you think. Granted, she isn't going to be back to pre-birth form, but hale, hearty, and healthy is usually right around the corner. If it was a C-section, sure, there's some incisions and stitches to heal. How is she doing? And OP replies, fair. It isn't his fault, but it's easier to blame him than me right now for my unhappiness. Mum's hanging in. She's a lot more patient than I am. Look, OP, give it time. I bonded with my daughter slowly at first, but that was mostly because my wife and mother took over until my wife went back to work. As soon as it was the 2 of us at night alone, we bonded faster. There were still some bumps in the road, but they grew further and further apart and much less noticeable. I went through the same thing with my daughter. The first couple of weeks, I was absolutely wrecked by sleep deprivation and on edge about this new life that I was supposed to feel responsibility and unconditional love for. When I didn't feel that, I just retreated into myself and started to feel resentment towards the baby. Finally, I talked to the nurse about it, and she said I was probably suffering from a potential postpartum depression exacerbated by a lack of sleep. She more or less ordered me to sleep separately from my wife and child for a week and see if that helped. My wife was coping much better than me. After I got to sleep through the week, the feelings of resentment started to fade, and I was just left with a bad conscience for not helping my wife out during the night, but the numbness stayed for a while. The nurse suggested that I do some of the other chores with the baby to compensate for not helping out at night, like bathing her, changing diapers, taking care of her in the morning to let my wife sleep in, etc. This would also help me bond with her. Today, my daughter is 5 years old, and thinking back on looking at her, not feeling a thing brings tears to my eyes. I love her more than I love life itself, and I would happily throw myself in front of a truck if it meant saving her life. So, know that it's not uncommon to feel like you do. It's an adjustment period, and meanwhile, the sleep deprivation hurts your brain and turns you numb. My advice is basically the same that the nurse gave us. Get some sleep and try to do stuff with the baby. Bonding takes time, but before that happens, chores feel unbearable and annoying. The first phase is tough, and tiredness makes it feel like it goes on forever. I know it's hard, but try and keep in mind that it will pass and it will get better. Every time you do chores for the baby, you actually get a little stronger, a little better at being a dad, even if you can't feel it. But eventually, you'll have adjusted to your new life, and you will find strength within you to do whatever it takes to make your little one happy. By the way, don't listen to anybody telling you to just suck it up. That made me feel like I was less of a man for feeling like I did. That helps no one. You're allowed to feel like you do. And back up to the post, there is an edit. Wow. Woke up to an interesting mix of comments from people calling me a selfish idiot who needs to man up, and supportive folks who have gone through similar struggles. I posted this mostly just to vent, and wasn't sure where else I could go. My wife and I are very open. She has similar thoughts, although less regret in what our life was like before and what it is now. I'm still adjusting to all of this, and will take several people's advice to seek out therapy, and quite frankly, just give it time and be more patient. Thank you all for the comments and advice, positive or negative. And now onto the update. Having a kid is a lot of fun actually. It's amazing how much changes in the span of 10 months. I actually forgot I posted this, until a commenter asked how things were going now. Anyway, to all the new dads reading this and currently worrying that their lives are over, it gets so much better, I promise. Take it from someone who seriously thought his life was over. I think we had a particularly challenging baby. Colic, restless, not at all calm or enjoyable to be around. I was severely depressed for about 5 months. Reading back on that post, and I can hardly remember the days, the first few months were a blur, but I do remember just how painful the feelings were. At around 6 months in is when it got better. We finally figured out what was causing the colic. It was GI issues. Pressure your doctor for baby Pepcid. And realized that we needed to be closer to family. We moved halfway back across the country to be closer. The little man started to get a personality, started to learn and embrace the world, and my wife and I finally got back into a routine and an understanding of our new life. Wife and I had some really open talks during the first few months. I wasn't the only miserable one. Looking back, I am absolutely selfish for not thinking that she was also experiencing similar and even worse feelings than I was. But we got through it with really open conversations, and our relationship is stronger coming out of it. 11 months in, and we are now planning for a first birthday party with family, about to move into our new family home, and living in a city with a support group of other young parents with babies. It's just a different world from where I was mentally this time last year, and the kid is so much effing fun. He's taking his first steps, babbling, goes swimming with me every day, sleeps 12 hours a night, takes naps, eats food, and laughs at all of my dumb jokes. I honestly never thought that I would like him, and here we are. I would take a bullet for him. Anyway, my messages are always open for new dads going through postpartum depression. It is effing real. Do not let anyone tell you that you are not supposed to be feeling what you are feeling. My main piece of advice? Just genuinely give it time. Find what makes you happy for the first 4 to 6 months and do that thing. Your kid might not make you happy, and it's okay. Be patient and give it time. And now in the comments, I just wanted to say this post gave me clarity as I lay here wishing my colicky 5-month-old would just sleep for an hour before I go insane. It's been 5 months of my wife and I sleeping in separate bedrooms and generally living life like two zombies, while I've listened over and over to friends and family with newborns talking about their kids sleeping through the night at 3 months or sleeping all day so they catch up and get time to themselves then. Or just how quickly their baby responded to sleep training, etc., etc. I wouldn't say that I feel the same as you described in your first post, but I have a lot of those "what the hell have we done" and "my life is over" thoughts, with tonight being yet another challenging one mentally for me. Your follow-up post gave me a sliver of hope that this all really is temporary, and maybe I can make it through this without totally losing it. A little bit of peace in the chaos. Thank you. And OP replies, "Yup. We slept in the same room, but man did it feel like we were living separate lives for a bit. Try to hire some help and get some time to yourself and prioritize sleep training. We got him down to about 12 hours a night at 7 months, and he just goes to sleep now. It's amazing. You'll get through it. Don't feel bad about thinking about how much it sucks right now. And you know what's great? It gets even better. First words, first conversations, first sentences. So happy for you, my man. You stuck it out through the toughest bits, and here we are. PPD is a cow, but you survived it. Can you believe that in about a year, you might be so happy you'll think about having another one?" And OP replies, "Thanks for the kind words. We're going to start trying in the spring for the second." Sleep deprivation is no effing joke. I knew right away when he started describing how miserable and angry and hopeless he felt that at least 75% of that was lack of sleep. It's still a major lifestyle change, and adjusting would be hard anyway. But if he'd had an easier baby, he wouldn't have been such a wreck. People also really gloss over how unlovable a less than 3-month-old baby is. They are very loud slugs with very little personality and really aren't developed enough to reward you with the kind of oxytocin-boosting behaviors that you need to not feel insane. Heck, babies don't start making eye contact for the first 6 to 8 weeks. They are bottomless pits of need. Hormones are raging, so a lot of parents love their slugs so much. But it's really common for parents to struggle with bonding at first because that bond is so one-sided. I really think that humans weren't meant to raise babies the way most have to do today, with only 1 or maybe 2 adults to an infant. People used to live in more multi-generational households, so you'd have way more adults on hand who could help out with a newborn. Our next post is titled, "Today I effed up by donating blood with my dad. Sorry if this makes no sense. I'm dumb. My mom has sickle cell, so a few times I've donated my blood to her. I know my mom's blood type is A because I donate to her, and I know my blood type is O because, well, I donate. Today I just went to donate blood with my dad, just because, and I found out his blood type is AB. At first everything was alright, then I started thinking about what I learned in biology. In high school, I learned that if you have AB type blood, then you can't have a child with O blood. I was confused for a minute, but I just let it go because WTF? I started thinking about it again, and I looked it up. It says, a person whose genetic type is either AA or AO will have blood type A. Those with genetic type BB or BO will have blood type B, and those with genetic type OO will have blood type O. A child with type O blood can have parents with type A, type B, or type O blood, but not type AB. So yet again, I was confused. Is my dad really my dad? I'm really thinking about this and I want to ask my mom, but what good could it bring to start some mess up with them if I don't know for sure? Did my mom cheat on my dad? Am I adopted? Does my dad know? It's all so confusing. I hope I'm just wrong and paranoid, but I'm really thinking about this. I kind of want to ask my mom about it, but I don't want to get her mad. And now in the comments, there are weak variations of A and B that present as O when it comes to most antigen testing, but not genetic testing. I'm not sure how it affects donations. There is something called Bombay phenotype that overrides the A and B blood group antigens and presents as O unless you're specifically looking for it, but it's actually its own special thing. Someone else mentioned cis-AB, which means your dad's genotype might be CABO, and his phenotype would be AB, and you could have inherited O from both your mother and him. So your phenotype and genotype would be OO. All of these would be uncommon, but not unheard of, depending on your background. If it's something like a weakly expressed A subgroup, then it might never be caught unless genetic testing occurs. If recipient anti-A can react with the weakly expressed antigen that the testing serum failed to detect, then we would pick up on it in the crossmatch. I would suggest either a DNA test, or bring it up with your mother first, on the off chance that it would start a fight before you got an actual answer. Also, it was a well-written post. You were certainly not dumb by my standards. I mean, most people I know wouldn't have even realized the blood types didn't line up. Ancestry DNA tests equals #1 cause of family feuds. People just love getting these things for significant others as Christmas gifts, it seems. It's like people actually want the drama. I'd say people being shitty equals #1 cause of family feuds, not people find out truth equals #1 cause of family feuds. Start the conversation and know your health history. Remember though that no matter what, your dad is your dad, and if he isn't your father, it doesn't stop him from being the person who raised you, bonded with you, and held you strong for these 19 years so far. If he's your bio dad, perfect. If he isn't, he is still your dad. Just gotta decide if you want to follow the biological footprint. Good luck regardless, OP. Hoping for the best. And now, onto the update. So I waited a couple of days, then just went to my mum and asked her when my dad wasn't there. I said something like, "Mama, I took a blood test with Daddy and found out he can't be my dad if my blood type is O." I didn't say that specifically, but something along those lines. She just looked at me for like 5 minutes, then it's like she fixed her mouth to say an excuse, but just told me the truth. She said her and my daddy were together, but my dad was messing with a lot of other women, so she started messing with somebody else too. She ended up getting pregnant and told Dad and the other man that she was pregnant and that she was going to take care of her baby regardless, but if they wanted to stay, they could. The other man decided to leave and my dad stepped up. When my mum had me, my dad didn't even care to do the DNA test anymore because when he saw me, he fell in love. They were together for real ever since my mum got pregnant and have just been each other's rock ever since. I still kind of feel a little hurt about it because my life is basically a lie. Not really, but they never really planned on telling me. They hid this from me, and I'm the only child my dad has who really doesn't even have his DNA. I guess not telling me was their way of protecting me, but it just opened up a lot of other doors. I love my dad still, and I wanted to reach out to the other man when my mum told me, but not so much anymore. My dad is my dad, and I love him the same, maybe even more. I'm glad that my dad chose to be here for me and raise me as his own. I really don't know if I'm the other man's child biologically, and I don't care to find out. I'm happy that I finally know the truth and can stop questioning why I am not my father's twin like my other siblings. I'm just kidding, lol, but thank you for all the nice replies, advice, and suggestions on my original post. It means a lot. And now in the comments, funny enough, this is why my old high school stopped doing real blood type labs because kids kept finding out that they are adopted. Oh god! That's not funny. That's not funny. That's not funny. That's grim, that's tragic, it's a good reason to stop the blood tests. My teacher told us the same in high school. The district had done away with some of their blood-related labs because parents were complaining of it causing issues. We want you to teach our children to think critically, but not like that. In the middle of biology class is not the place you want to find out a family secret. When my kid came home from high school biology, he proudly announced that he had the rarest blood type, AB negative. I told him that was impossible, as I was O positive and his dad was B negative, so he needed a do-over. When the Red Cross had the blood drive, they told him it was B positive. Still have no idea how that first test went sideways. Ancestry DNA told me the truth. It's a kick in the pants to find out. I'm glad his mum told him the truth at least. This is pretty sweet, honestly. Something similar happened with my sister. Mum got pregnant with her after dating 2 different men, told them both, one left, and the other, my dad eventually, stayed. When Sis was born and was obviously physically not my dad's kid, he went, "Ah, she looks like me," to be silly, and the rest was history. Anyone can be a dad. It takes a real man to be a father. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it down below, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.